All right, good afternoon to those of you on the East Coast. Good afternoon also to those of you on the West Coast. I'm your host, Brandon Troy, also co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. Thanks so much for joining us wherever you're watching from. As you will know, every week we try to give you the goings on in the world of entertainment and pop culture in our show known as This Week in Pop Culture, giving you the spark notes, cliff notes, if you will, of what's been going down. And I'm not going to be alone in talking about these said topics. So without further ado, I want to welcome my co-host, partner in crime, Mr. Spillman Trueheart, aka Spills. Let me see if I can get him on here.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Hope we're having a
See if
great
our
week.
technology wants to cooperate today. Hold on. Here we go. All right, there we go. What's up, sir?
There we go, ladies and gentlemen.
All right, Spills, what is going on, man? How has your week been? Hold on. Go.
Been enjoying my week.
If we can
Christmas
get this
party
going. I know
season
we're
is
having a
in
little bit of
full
technical
effect.
difficulties.
Hello.
Yay, technology. There we go. All right. What's going on, man? How's your week been? Okay. All right. We want to try to see if we can get Spillman back on. Give him a moment there. We were having an issue with his audio, but we're going to get him back on. If we can get this going. Take two. If we can get you on here, Spills. Can you hear us? All right, still can't hear him, but as I said, we try to make it a point to give you the goings on in the world of entertainment and giving you some spark notes. There are going to be a couple of things that we will dive into today, whether it is in the world of sports or in the world of entertainment. See if I can get Spillman back on. Can you hear us, sir?
I can hear you. Can you hear me, ladies and gentlemen?
Yes, we are good to go. All
All
right.
right, just like
All
that
right.
for the
Let's
third time.
do
Sorry for
this.
the bad intro, guys. We get it. We got to get a rain for that one. We got to get a rain for that one.
You gotta get a rain. But without further ado, we're gonna hop into the first portion of the show, which is sports. And we did have a couple of things, a couple of small things that happened this week, not just in the world of the NBA, but also in the football world. You know, going from the NFL to college football, as you can see down there below. So we're gonna get into the NBA Cup and the update with that, as well as Bill Belichick coaching for in the world of college football for UNC. So first, we're going to dive into the NBA Cup, and let me see if I can bring this up for you guys. We did have an update in that regard. If we're talking about the NBA Cup, as you guys know, or I should say, if you're not aware, the NBA Cup deals with the in-season tournament, and this is the second year in which we've had this in-season tournament for the NBA. And this past week, we did have two updates. As of Friday, the NBA Cup whittled down to four teams. As the West saw the Thunder dismantle the Mavs 118 to 104, and the Warriors lose in a heartbreaker 91 to 90 against the Rockets. And the East saw the Bucks outlast the Magic 114 to 109, and the Hawks shook the Knicks 1-0, or I should say, shocked the Knicks 108 to 100. However, we did have an additional update in that regard because we did also have some games play out on Saturday. And as of yesterday, we now have our championship matchup. As in the East, we now have the Knicks outlasting the Hawks, and we also now have in the West the you have the Rockets losing out to the Thunder. So, Spillman, I have to ask you: are you surprised by the final outcome of what we have for this championship matchup? And if so, what are your thoughts?
Honestly, when we were looking at this a couple of weeks ago, I did say that I felt that the Bucks and the Thunder were two of the stronger teams. Obviously, they've got MVP caliber players on their team. They're just pulling out wins. I'd like to see what Shea does in the game. They're obviously missing their big man, but they're still going strong because they got a lot of good players for the Thunder. So interested to see how this goes. And then obviously Giannis, you gotta big up Giannis. He lost to the Pacers last year, so I think this is a get back. I think that the Bucks might pull it out. What do you think?
Well, I guess there are some elements of this that are surprising, and there are elements of it that aren't clearly. I am bummed to have the Warriors, lose out to the Rockets. I am bummed out to have them lose, but I'm not shocked by the Thunder being able to progress forward. I know we were talking about it before of them just having an impressive, defense, and even in today's NBA, while there is a lot of attention paid to offense and being able to be versatile in what you can do offensively, whether it's stepping outside and shooting threes, which feels like this today's NBA, say today's NBA is very in love with, is
Hmm.
just the idea of being able to chuck a lot of threes. You still, at the end of the day, when we're talking about X's and O's, still have to be able to play defense. That you're still going to have to be able to get stops and to be able to have players, not just big men, but also guards, forwards that can defend. That's very valuable in today's NBA, and especially in lieu of what I was just saying when we're talking about being able to step outside and having a focus on 3-point shooting. If you can have defenders that can step out there and defend that, then that's going to be something that's going to work in your favor. So I guess on the West side, I'm not too shocked by the outcome, but in the East, just as you said, there is an opportunity in the East for them to be able to make a statement, but at the same time, I do see the Thunder coming away with the cup at the end. I don't know what your thoughts are.
So you got the Thunder. I don't know. I just feel like the Thunder have a good defense, but they don't have anybody that can stop Giannis. And it seems like Giannis has put in this early season, he's put his mind to exerting his will in the game. He's like, Lillard, I don't need to worry about Lillard. Just get on my back, fellas. Get on my back, and I'm gonna show you. I feel like he's really trying to be the second greatest power forward of all time. I feel like he's trying to do that. So he's trying to solidify himself as one of them guys. Because like all the other top power forwards, they all have a big ding in their armor. It's like Tim Duncan and then everybody else. So he's trying to separate himself from the pack right now. And I feel like he wins this championship. If he could win a chip this year, he would definitely separate himself out of the pack, the greatest power forwards of all time. But
For sure, for sure,
I'll
for
leave it
sure.
there.
And I can't say much else outside of what you shared, but I will make a correction there. I know I was talking about the Hawks earlier being able to progress, but on the East, the Bucks, just as you said, will be representing the East versus the Thunder that we have in the West. So I just wanted to make that quick correction there, but. Switching gears to the world of football, as I said, we want to talk briefly about something that is pretty mind blowing. If we're talking about the world of football and talking about that transition of what a coach that has made that transition from the NFL into college football, and that's none other than Bill Belichick. Let me put him up here. The legendary coach, Bill Belichick, and this past week, there was news of him, potentially taking on a head coaching position in college football. That news dropped on Wednesday by way of ESPN's Adam Schefter, Pete Thamel, and Chris Lowe, per their sources, that he would be accepting a job as the head coach of the UNC Tar Heels. Now, on Thursday, it became official as details were revealed of his compensation, and it is a doozy. So let me get into it. Currently, Belichick and the Tar Heels have agreed to a 5-year deal that runs through December of 2029 and is worth $10 million per season. And just to give you specifics of that $10 million per season, it is made up of $1 million base salary and $9 million in supplemental income. The first 3 years of this 5-year deal are guaranteed, which I do want to get into because there is a component of that is not the norm when we're talking about college football. But to talk about the further components of this contract, in addition to the $10 million that Belichick stands to make, guaranteed again in the first 3 years, on a yearly basis, he could also receive up to $3.5 million per season in bonuses, which would be tied to regular season wins, ACC championship games, and postseason appearances, ranking in the final CFP poll, Coach of the Year awards, and the team's academic standing. Lastly, another feature of the contract is Belichick's buyout to leave, which is reduced to $1 million after June 1st of 2025, which would open the door to allow for him to have an easy and early and easy financial exit in the NFL to be able to coach if the opportunity arose. We're theoretically saying a situation that could happen. He could leave for only $1 million before ever coaching a game at UNC. However, that would be unlikely because typically when we're talking about NFL teams and when they are hiring their coaches, it typically does not happen post-draft or during free. So, you hear all of this, you get to hear the breakdown of the contract that we're talking about with Belichick, and what are your thoughts of this move? Is it a good move for UNC, and do you feel like it's a good move for him personally?
I feel like this is more a good move, not just for UNC, but I think the ACC. I think that the ACC has been a redhead stepchild in this playoff era of college football. They really haven't had much representation in the playoffs outside of Clemson. Clemson's really the only school that ever represents, and all of these schools are big blue chip schools as far as other sports. Obviously, UNC is a huge basketball school. I think this is their chance to try to legitimize the football program in North Carolina. Um, we'll see how he does because historically, I don't think of the state of North Carolina as having a huge football background as far as like you know 5-star recruits. I don't think they're really known for that. But there may be some people that he can get outside with his name. I mean, arguably, he's the greatest coach of all time. You could argue that. As far as NFL coaches, it's kind of a no-brainer. Um, but I don't know. I don't know.
I hear you. I mean, I guess what I'll say is this: is I feel like this is more of something that is beneficial for Belichick than it is necessarily for UNC. And the reason being is that, I didn't get into the details of it, but Belichick has some connection to USC. His father apparently, was an assistant coach in his day for UNC. And so there is that sentimental value of being able to coach at a program that, your father previously coached at. So there's that. But I mean, I guess the other part of it is, as I mentioned with that buyout piece, it provides him the easy transition or launching pad if he decided to move on back into the NFL. If anything, this kind of feels like a position that he's still trying to have his ability to be able to coach until an opportunity comes in the NFL. And if we're talking about UNC, while it's quote unquote, the sexy hire of being able to hire someone with that name of Belichick and his pedigree, when we're talking about what he's been able to accomplish in the NFL and the pros, at the same time, I don't know if it's necessarily a good look for them outside of how it looks on paper, because we're talking about that, and just as you said, of being able to recruit the players necessary to bring their program into to the relevance that they're trying to bring their program to. It's not going to be an immediate thing. Like you have to bring a new, just as you're bringing in a new coach. While that does help, you have to bring in a new mentality. And when you're bringing in a coach that has their own style, that may take 2 or 3 seasons at least for you to be able to kind of reestablish some new habits with your program and a new identity with that program. And as I said, when we're talking about this contract, it's a 5-year contract. 3 years of it are guaranteed in terms of how much he's being paid yearly. And if you're talking about a recruit that is considering coming to UNC just by virtue of Belichick being the coach, I don't know if they would be willing to take that chance, because what if Belichick gets an opportunity within that 3-year span of being able to return to the NFL, and now someone who was recruited by Belichick to be able to go to USC now is not really going to have that period of time during their college career to be able to be coached by him. It will be kind of unfair to those recruits that are being drawn to going to USC for just the idea or just that opportunity to be able to be coached by Belichick, and then may not ever get that opportunity. So I don't know. I feel like time will tell if he's really uh, if he's really loyal to that program, and while he has been stated as saying that it is something that is not going to really be a short-term stay, I have to. I'm being really skeptical right now and cynical to say that I'm sure if he gets a opportunity with some programs or some teams in the NFL to coach, he's going to take them up on that offer. And I believe that he'll probably get an opportunity that's going to be way more lucrative than what he would have at USC, because just by virtue of the fact that it obviously has far more resources than college would. I don't know what your thoughts are on. I guess
I
that's
don't
what I
know.
say.
I just feel like North Carolina is a blue chip school. I feel like they're trying to reestablish football in the ACC, and I feel like the money that he's going to make now, he's going to make $50 million in 5 years. Like it's 5 less games a year. You won't have as many long years. You'll be done by New Year's. I feel like that's I don't know. I feel like this is more something his lane. He seems to like the younger lean in life, from what I've seen.
I
So
knew it was coming. I
I
knew it.
feel like he's just going back to graduate school. That's all he's doing. And I feel like I don't know, man. I just feel like I feel like he will be able to attract talent because there's really not that many great college coaches anymore. Like I feel like Nick Saban leaving Alabama has left a big hole, and everybody's kind of looking around. And they're like, "Hey, the monsters left the building. We could go get some championships. Maybe we could put up some resume builders. Like if he wins, because think about it, if he wins a college championship, then you would have to say he's the greatest coach of all time. He wins 7 in the NFL and 1 in North Carolina. At North Carolina of all places. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's a who. I don't know. Tom Brady
No,
who?
no, I hear you, but and it would give him an opportunity to step away from the NFL, as you said, to be able to demonstrate that he can win at any level. And there are other components when we're talking about college football that one can arguably say it can be more challenging in the pros because
Yeah.
you're dealing with the element of transfers and that transfer portal and all those other things that come into play
But
that can
he
affect.
likes to do that. That's what he's good at. He's like, actually, this guy's not any good. Go ahead, get him out of here. I'm gonna get this guy.
Right.
He's really good at doing that. That's actually,
Yeah.
and I feel like that's why he did it also because the game is a little bit different. It's not like it used to be where you're trying to get like underhand stuff to get people under the table. It's like, no. We get
Yeah,
this
yeah,
kid in
because
here.
when you're talking about college football versus the pros, folks are settled into those positions, and you may have to deal with that person for five, 10 years because of a contract that is keeping them there for that period of time. So, as you said, there isn't really an opportunity for a lot of changes if changes need to be made. So hopefully, maybe that will be able to work out in his favor. Those elements that are available in college football that are not necessarily available in the pros.
And he has got a much wider pool to look through than he used to. And he's very good at finding people, be like, hey, actually, this guy right here, he can kill for me. I know exactly what to do with him. So I don't know, man. I don't know. He's a good coach. He knows the game of football. So I don't know.
I hear you. I hear you. So that is going to wrap up what we have to follow up on regarding the world of sports. Just as we had mentioned, we talked briefly on the NBA Cup of where things stand between the Bucks and the Thunder, and then also with Bill Belichick heading over to Chapel Hill to coach for the Tar Heels. Shout out to Ray. I know I meant to give you a shout out, sir. Shout out to you. Thank you for joining us on today's show. And now we're going to switch gears a bit into Trailer Alley. So give us a moment while we do that. And what we're going to talk about is a film that has had a bit of a hiatus of sorts, and that is none other than 28 Days Later. We did have a trailer that dropped this week for 28 Years Later, which is the third film in the said horror franchise that you could say revolutionized what we have with the quote unquote zombie subgenre of horror. We have the return of the director as well as the screenwriter from the original film, and we do have some new faces. We have some recognizable faces with Aaron Taylor Johnson and Ralph Fiennes, but we apparently will get the return of Cillian Murphy as well. So, Spillman, I don't know if you had a chance to see the trailer that dropped this past week. What are your thoughts on what it had to?
So I will make a caveat, ladies and gentlemen. On this program previously, I have poo-pooed the genre of zombie movies. I felt like in the last 20 years, they've overdid the zombie stuff. It's almost
Okay,
got to the part that it's cartoonish and not scary anymore because they're
okay,
just zombies, right? This is the movie I feel like that started this. This is like the OG original, and I will not poo-poo it because come on, it's 28 days later. It's just like the perfect like drop into like terrible time because like they don't have to waste time with like how the zombie thing happened. Because all you need to know is he was sleeping, he woke up, it was zombies. Like it just started. So 28 years later is I'm really looking forward to this one. I might actually go to the theater and see this one. I definitely, especially if Cillian Murphy's in it. Oh, such a good thing. I can't say anything but great stuff about this franchise. I love 28 days later, 28 months later, or 20 months or weeks, 28 weeks later.
So when you're saying 28 weeks, that's our sequel. So 28 weeks later was the sequel that we had, where we
Yes.
had Hawkeye in it. We had Jeremy Renner in it. A lot of people forget that
Yeah.
he was in that sequel. But this film, as I said, will see the return of some familiar faces. Let me see if I can pull that up right now. But yeah, just to go into some further details about 28 years later, as I mentioned before, we do have some of the creative team, folks behind the camera that are returning to be a part of this third entry. Tony Boyle, who is an Academy Award winning director. He directed the first film along with his screenwriter, who's Academy Award nominated, Alex Garland. Both of them were a part of the creation of the first film, and it's awesome to see that they are back. But the thing that is interesting is that it has been uh, quite a while since we've had even the last entry. And I know a lot of times when I talk about sequels just in general, I think the one thing that I am looking forward to with this film is to see the that original team come back. A lot of times when we're talking about franchises like these, you don't see the original team come back because maybe they moved on to other things. They may feel like, oh, I'm above this now. This is where I was when I was first starting, and it's great to see that they are coming back to do that. However, I know a lot of times when we're also talking about sequels, is that things become concerning for me, and this is just being nitpicky. Things become concerning for me if there has been a sizable amount of time from one installment to the other. And when we're talking about the this franchise, it has been, and I can try to see if I can look this up. I want to say it's been 18 years since since we've had an installment with this film. So when we're talking about that type of hiatus, you run other dangers of when we're talking about the audience. Has the audience gotten past? Yes. So now I'm looking at it. It's been 22 years since the first film, but yes, it has been 18 years since the second installment, and so you run the danger of, as I said, the audience being phased out of what is phased out of the potential audience that you may have for the film. Also, a lot of times when we're talking about certain franchises, they're very much, and I mentioned this before, but they're very much of their time. And so we've had a lot of zombie films in that time, and
Ad
having
nauseum.
zombie other zombie films in that time, and TV shows, many TV shows, I might add, spinoffs, I might add, if you know what I'm mentioning with that with the Walking Dead universe, is
Oh,
that. And don't get me wrong, I love Walking Dead. I've enjoyed some of the spinoffs that they've done. But you're going to have to bring something new to the table, and just simply having zombies that are fast is not going to really cut it. So I'm hoping by having the original team, they're still going to be able to establish the foundation of what made the original so great. But I'm also hoping that they're going to bring some new elements in how the creatures operate and new things that they can do to kind of mix things up, because we've had years upon years of this subgenre in horror, and one of the things that kind of became the calling card with this franchise with their zombies, I don't feel is going to be enough to kind of take them over the hump. When we're, even if you're bringing it back, OG characters with Murphy's character supposedly in this film. I don't know if you have any other thoughts on.
I don't really. I mean, honestly, that's obvious, but I feel like all that is true. But just last year, The Last of Us was a really great show. So I feel like if it's in the right hands, they're gonna do it right. I feel like the awesome logical jumps you got to make, obviously, because if it's been 28 years, if we all the smart humans, how are the zombies still alive after 28 years? If they eat, because it's only so many people in the zombie apocalypse. So I don't know.
That's fair. That's fair. I didn't even think about that. I mean, it's not like the zombies are reproducing. That would be a whole other movie. That would be a whole other weird
Yeah,
movie. But there are only but so many dead people that you,
you
but
can
so many
only eat one. Yeah, like it's like when you're playing the
infected,
video
but
games,
so
you get
many
zombies.
infected folks
Yeah.
that you can have, and if you're going through everybody and everybody's getting infected, at some point it's going to come to a head of weird
We all
things.
infected.
Weird things stand. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I hear you. I hear you. Um, but that is going to wrap up what our thoughts are on 28 years later. Let us know in the comments. Is that something that you guys are excited for? Even in lieu of the hiatus that we have, of it being 18 years since the last installment and more than 20 years since the first film. Maybe you guys didn't see the second film and you only saw the original film. You can let us know. But as I said, we're going to move on to our film and TV portion. And man, there are quite a few things to dive into. So we're going to try to keep it succinct for you guys, because there were a number of things that we wanted to touch on, whether it was with the Golden Globes, whether it was with some information on our series of Malcolm in the Middle, or even the return of an OG to a little horror franchise, and much more. So we're first going to dive into some of our nominations. So give me a second, Spill. I'm going to try to bring this up for us in terms of the nominations. The Golden Globes. Give me one moment here. While we're doing that, Foreman, I don't know if we've ever talked. I know we've talked about the Oscars, but I don't believe you've shared with me if the Golden Globes would be an award show that you tune in for. I know you check out the Oscars, but I don't remember if you ever shared with me if that was the case with the Golden Globes.
I feel like I'm like anyone. If it's a good show, I watch it. Like if something crazy
Okay.
is happening, I'll watch it. I
Okay.
think that's the one. The Golden Globes, the one where they drink, right? Do they drink at the Golden Globes, or is it the Screen
I
Actors
mean, you
Guild?
drink at all the shows, but
No,
yes,
but
they
like
do.
there's one that they specifically drink at, like specifically. Like it's not like all right, we had an office party drinking. It's like, oh no, we're drinking.
Oh man. So
Yeah. So yeah, I'm down with the Golden Globes. They're obviously like kind of a made up an award, because I don't know what the Golden Globes are outside of the Golden Globes. Like I've never seen a Golden Globe magazine or
okay,
website or
okay,
anything. So
okay. That's fair.
that kind
That's
of
fair.
like is
And
the
that's
thing.
why I have
And
you in here, because I like to have that balance of someone who's casual versus someone who
yeah.
tunes in on a regular basis. But I'm gonna put it up for you guys, those of you tuning in, and just to give you some background, on the Golden Globes, if you guys missed out on it. This past Monday, the 82nd annual Golden Globes were announced by Mindy Kaling and Morris Chestnut via a press conference, and the nominations were as follows. I'm going to see if I can share it here from directly from their website because we do have it available now. Give us one moment. Okay. And you guys can let me know, Spills, if there's any issues seeing it.
Right now we're just seeing a graphic.
Right. No, I know. Said the wonders of uh, broadcasting should be shared up there now. I don't know if they're still having any issues with that. Hold on. All right, there we go. All right, so you should have it available up there now. You able to see it, Spills?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so diving into what we have for Best Motion Picture for Dramas, we do have a couple of nominees. We have a Complete Unknown, Conclave, Dune Part 2, Nickel Boys, September 5th, and The Brutalist. Out of these films, Spillman, I don't know if you had a chance to see some of these films thus far. I have had a chance to see Conclave as well as Dune 2. Both, obviously are quite good, but if we're talking about just the undertaking of everything that was involved in putting the film together and how it all came together, I don't know. I have my money on Dune Part 2.
I actually have not seen any of these films. I planned to see Conclave, but I ended up not going to the movies for that. I think I went to see Gladiator. Um,
Gotcha.
Crazy that Gladiator's not here for best drama. Maybe they call that a thriller. But of this list, I would imagine that Dune Part Two would be it. But I feel like A Complete Unknown, because it's a biopic, it's just going to be the one that's going to win.
Yeah, and
Maybe.
I know when it comes to award shows, biopics are typically the type of pictures that get the nod of winning among nominees. But I don't know. As I said, just in terms of everything that was involved in being able to make Dune work and all the different components that were at play when we're talking about making that into a film and all the pieces that the filmmaker had to utilize in order to make all of that said film work. I feel like Dune will have the edge in that regard. Um, so moving on to the musical or comedy portion of Best Motion Picture, we have Real Pain, we have Anora, we have Challengers, we have Amelia Perez, The Substance, and we have Wicked. Um, Out of these films, the only one that I've had the opportunity to see is The Substance, and that's just by virtue of the fact that I am a horror guy. I enjoy films that have that thriller component or that horror component. So it was great to know that The Substance got the nod in this regard. But I'll punt it over to you, Spillman. I don't know if you've had an opportunity to see some of these films. Maybe perhaps you've seen Wicked, because I know in terms of having that kid component or that potential audience with having kids, and being a father, I figured that perhaps that might have been a film that you've seen, or I could be wrong.
Oh, Mr. Baby is afraid of witches, so we were not going to go see Wicked.
Okay,
Like we tried to watch the OG Wizard of Oz, and he was okay with it till the Wicked Witch showed up.
okay,
So
that's fair. That's fair.
yeah. But actually, again, I wanted to see the challenges. I'm surprised that this is a musical or comedy. I didn't think that the challenges was a funny movie, but apparently it is. Um, that's interesting. Was the substance a musical or a comedy, or because you just said it was a horror movie?
Yeah, I mean, that's the weird thing. I know a lot of times when we're talking about the Golden Globes, I feel sometimes uh, these films get pigeonholed into that additional slot of core comedy when they're not able to fit it into the main drama slot. And when it's something that is outside of the norm that you have with a typical drama, and if it's something kind of like, I guess, genre related, they kind of just throw it in there with music and comedy, even though it may not necessarily be music and comedy, I've noticed. So I feel like, to give you an example, say if we had like Deadpool and Wolverine, which we'll get into because it did get nominated. It wasn't in this category. It's going to come later, but if it did, it probably would have fallen in this category versus the drama category.
You know what though? This is the Golden Globes, it's not the Oscars. So whatever they got up there, we'll take them on their word. Go ahead, Golden Globes. You do you.
But as I said, when we're talking about this, the lineup that we have here with the nominees, I've heard a lot of great things about Wicked. I haven't had a chance to see it yet. It's still in my to do. I haven't seen Challengers. I've heard folks say that they have enjoyed that as well as A Real Pain. Also, I still need to get around to Honora and Amelia Perez, but I do know I do have Wicked, Wicked, A Real Pain, and Challengers in the queue. I know for a fact I have Challengers. I still have to make it out for Wicked and A Real Pain, and I have seen The Substance, which is terrific. And I love that, even though it may not necessarily be a musical or comedy, I just love that it is being recognized uh, uh, for the work that was done in that film. Whether we're talking, because even outside of the horror effects that are in the film, the performances in it are outstanding. And what was the direction that was made in or done in order to gather this film. Making our way down, went over Best Motion Picture for Drama and Best Motion Picture for Musical Comedy. We had Best Motion Picture Animated, and the nominees that we had with that got announced, we have Flow, Inside Out 2, Memoir of a Snail, Ona 2, Wild Robot, and Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Foul. So filming with these, I actually, I had an opportunity to see a Mona 2. I just haven't gotten around to seeing it. Perhaps there are some that are within this category that you may have had a chance to see, but a lot of these films, if they aren't on my queue, being already available that you can see digitally, they are films that I plan on checking out in the theater. But I don't know if you are ahead of me in that regard in terms of these numbers.
No, surprisingly, these are not the animated movies that I saw this year. I feel like I'm the median voter this segment. This is amazing. I did want to see. No, I think I may have seen Inside Out 2 with my son on
Yeah,
streaming. Um, I feel like Wild Robot is the only one in the category that's really an adult film, I believe so. Like a film that's more leaning towards adults. But
yes,
I hope that Wallace and Gromit wins something for my own heart because everybody loves Wallace and Gromit, right?
yes.
Yeah, so that's the only one I would want to see win. Flow looks interesting. It looks like it's a whimsical story of a cat, and Moana 2 is a fun time. So yeah, that's awesome.
I would say out of the selection of nominees that we have here, I feel like Mona 2 has the highest chance of potentially taking the Golden Globe because I just feel it has a lot going for it in terms of who you have behind a lot of the characters with the voices. I know even with the songs, people very much enjoy those songs that come from crazy to say now. This franchise, I mean, I remember when we had the first Mona, but now we have Mona 2. And when we're talking about those songs, people very, very much enjoy those songs. And aside from the talent that you have, voices behind each of the characters. However, I will say, out of all of them, I'm rooting for Inside Out because when we're talking about Inside Out, it's just I liked that original concept that we had with the original film, and that it was enjoyed enough where we now have a sequel for it. Just that idea of being able to provide a face to a lot of those emotions that make up what it means to be human. And I feel like that's a unique concept or approach that has was taken, with that film when it was first arrived on the scene. So I'm rooting for Inside Out too, but I have a sneaking suspicion that Mona might the Golden Globe.
Yeah, that probably will. I mean, it's the biggest studio. Um, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised by that, and I wouldn't be upset because it's a good franchise. I don't have anything negative to say about Moana.
Um, all right, so going to best motion picture, non-English language. This is probably the category that I would say that I am definitely behind on. I used to be terrific when it came to seeing a lot of foreign films, and I've kind of gotten behind in that regard. But regardless of that fact, the nominees that we have in this category, we have all We Imagine Is Light. We have Amelia Perez. We have I'm Still Here. We have The Girl with the Needle. We have The Seed of the Sacred Fig. We have Ver Miglio. Miglio. So when we're talking about each of these films, as I mentioned, I am far behind when it comes to the foreign films that nominated. Gentlemen, I'm assuming you are in the same camp when we're talking about these films. But I mean, I have heard great things about Amelia Perez, but some of the other films that have been listed and named here is still something that is on my to-do list in terms of checking.
Yeah, I'm pretty behind on this one too. I feel like none of the movies that I went to go see this year are on this list, but that doesn't make me feel bad because there's fun movies everywhere. I haven't seen Deadpool. Let's get to the Deadpool one. Let's not to poo-poo this
I got
thing,
you.
but
I got you.
we don't have a lot of.
We don't
There's
do
no
it.
meat on this
Um,
bones.
I hear you. All right. So, best performance by a female actor in a motion picture or drama, and the nominees that we have are Angelina Jolie, Fernanda Torres for I'm Still Here, Kate Winslet for Lee, Nicole Kidman for Baby Girl, Pamela Anderson for The Last Showgirl, and Tilda Swinton for The Room Next Door. Now, when we're talking about this category, another film again that I've heard great things about is Lee. Kate Winslet is a perennial nominee when it comes to award season, so it's not shocking to see her here or Nicole Kidman. Um, However, I will say it's awesome to see that Pamela Anderson got the nod, in this category.
I was
I know
about to say, good for her.
I was going to say for the longest time when we're talking about Pamela Anderson's career, so much was focused on uh, her physical attributes, and I don't and
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
that
yeah.
it's just by virtue of of course, Baywatch and Barbed Wire and a lot of those films that didn't really take advantage of her being able to demonstrate her acting abilities. And I'm glad that they're with the recent performance that she's had with this film, The Last Showgirl, that there is an opportunity there for her to still that have her abilities as an actress get recognized. So I'm rooting for her to be able to win in this category, because I know oftentimes when we're talking about award season, whether it's as a nominee, but even more so as a winner, that there are more there. It opens the door for more opportunities to further demonstrate what you're capable of as an actor or as an actor. So I don't know what your thoughts on it are, but as I said, it's awesome to see that she has been nominated, in this category.
Yeah, I was going to say I'm rooting for Pamela Anderson. I also like movies, and when actors come back to acting after a long hiatus, and they
That's
are
yeah,
recapturing the things. Generally, those kind of movies are great movies. I'm thinking of like Mickey Rourke when he came back as the wrestler. That was a great tour de force, a return to
yes,
greatness. Um, you could look at like even like John Travolta when he came back in Pulp Fiction, he came back and killed it. So I'm really interested in this. I didn't I've seen her in a lot of stuff in media, but I didn't realize that she was doing publicity for this specific movie. So I'm definitely going to check it out now. But I'm definitely I'm Team Pam all the way.
right. All right. So getting into our next category that we have here, we have Best Performance by a Male Actor in a Motion Picture. And the nominees that we have here, we have Adrian Brody for The Brutalist, Coleman Domingo for Sing Sing, Daniel Craig for Queer, Ralph Fiennes for Conclave, Sebastian Stan for The Apprentice, and Timothy Chalamet for A Complete Unknown. And we have a lineup of a lot of actors here who perennially, when it comes to award season, are recognized for their work. However, just because it's fresh in my mind currently, I'm hoping that Sebastian Stan is recognized, for his role in the Apprentice. I don't know if you've had a chance to see that, Spillman. If you haven't, I would say definitely check it out. Where he is taking on the role of Donald Trump, and it's incredible how he's able to seamlessly dive into, of course, the real life figure, and uh, the the younger the upbringing that Trump had with his attorney Roy Cohn. So if you haven't seen it, anyone out there, if you haven't had a chance to check it out, it's a incredible performance of how he's able to take on a lot of those mannerisms and and components of the real life person. But I know you said, Spillman, that you had Conclave on your to do in terms of checking out. Have you seen anything else here among the performances?
Um, no, but I'm gonna go for my main man Coleman Domingo. He's been great in all the things I've seen him in. He's a great actor. So I think that he does things very well. Um, but Sebastian Stan in The Apprentice has been something that's been a very buzzworthy film over the years. So I think I would agree with you. Even though I haven't seen it, I can imagine that one will win. Um, I just feel like, unfortunately, this is the year of that guy. So I feel like people are just making media for him to like clean up on him. So we'll see how tasteful this looks in like 50 years. But who knows? Who
Yeah, yeah.
knows?
I mean, here's my thing. I actually believe that Daniel Craig, because I know that there has been a lot of talk about his performance in Queer, that he will end up taking the Golden Globe. I
Hmm.
would just say, in terms of as I said, a performance that's fresh in my head, and someone who, a lot of times when we're talking about award season, you see it sometimes where if there is someone who is not always nominated for roles, that there is a chance where they might be able to sneak in there as a dark horse. There are components of The Apprentice, moments in The Apprentice, where you have to do a double take to see that it is um, not Donald Trump versus Sebastian Stan, where like he is seamlessly able to transform himself into the real life person, and it's kind of scary. It's very scary that that it's that seamless that you kind of when you squint you can see that he is able to transform himself into that character, so or to that person, I should say. So um, my fingers are crossed for Sebastian Stan. I do have a feeling with all the buzz that is surrounding Craig with Queer that he has a chance of taking home the Golden Globe. But I'm hoping for Sebastian Stan uh, in relation to many of his peers here that you see in this category that are perennially, oftentimes when it comes to award season, right there in in the running as nominees. I'm rooting, for him. However, I wouldn't, as you said, I wouldn't be mad with Coleman Domingo. I'm a fan of his as well in terms of the roles that he is taking on and what he brings to uh, his roles, what he does. But considering that when we're talking about Domingo versus Stan, and Domingo is right there in the running. Oftentimes more so than Stan is. I'm rooting for Stan as the who is not always among the pack of his peers that are listed here. So as we're making our way down, we have best performance by a female actor in a motion picture, musical, or comedy. We have Amy Adams for Night Bitch. We have Cynthia Erivo for Wicked. Demi Moore for The Substance. Carla Sofia Gascon for Amelia Perez. Mickey Madison for Honora, and Zendaya for Challengers. I would say in this category, I believe that who I hope will win actually matches who will likely win for this category. And then that would be Demi Moore for The Substance. As I said, despite the fact that there's a lot of crazy things that happen in the film known as The Substance, uh, the performances are right up there with the effects, and sometimes you can have the effects or the spectacle overshadow what's happening in the actual film, and I feel that it's because of the performances that you have in this film that you buy what happens in terms of the spectacle. Like the acting helps the actual spectacle that transpires in this film. And I know, just as you said, when you have a hiatus of a certain performer, a lot of times when we're talking about how Hollywood works, it seems when they're like rooting for someone who's making a return, I feel like that might be something that comes into play when we're talking about Demi Moore. Demi Moore is icon when we're talking about all the roles that she has played in her career, spanning decades. It's hard to believe, and all the different types of roles that she has taken on over the course of her career, and to see her take on this role and what she the vulnerability that she has in terms of what was necessary to be able to do this role, and the fact that she went for it. is a real testament to like her courage as an actress, but also to be able to kind of do a meta take of Hollywood too, and how actresses of a certain age are perceived. It dives into that when we're talking about this film, The Substance, and as I said, film wouldn't have worked even with all the crazy things that happen. It wouldn't have worked without the performances that you have here, and performances I feel work in tandem with. But I don't know
Um,
where you stand in that regard. I don't believe you've seen The Substance yet, but if you haven't, man, you got to.
okay, yeah, I haven't seen The Substance, but I think it would have substance if I saw it. But
Which did, did.
um, but I
But
do think that this might be Demi Moore's year. You know, she's been fighting and protecting Bruce Willis, taking good care of him. So I feel like she's kind of a shoe in for this one to me. Um, yeah, I don't have. I haven't seen these movies, so we don't know. I don't know.
okay, I thought for I thought you had seen Challengers, that you had gotten around to
No,
see
I
Challengers,
wanted
but you
to.
haven't
I
seen
wanted to.
Challengers.
I've like had a lot of people tell me great things about it, but you know,
Okay, okay,
you know, obviously that was a I've heard I think my sister told me about it. She raved about it, so I feel like that's a good it's good enough
okay.
endorsement for me. So we'll go with
Got it.
Zendaya.
Got it. All right. So, best performance by a male actor in a motion picture, musical, or comedy. We have Gabriel LaBelle for Saturday Night, Glenn Powell for Hitman, Hugh Grant for The Heretic, Jesse Eisenberg for Real Pain, Jesse Plemons for Kinds of Kindness, and Sebastian Stan for A Different Man. Um, Awesome to see that Sebastian Stan got a nod for a separate role in another category. Um, Out of the actors that we have here, Eisenberg and Plemons are, favorites of mine when it comes to their work and what they bring to certain roles. However, I mentioned before just that idea of having freshly seen a given project, and when we're talking about a project that I freshly seen, that literally I saw today and was blown away by, is Hugh Grant in The Heretic. And another film that I suppose you can say in some respects is a horror film. There is some gore in there, and some other things that transpire in that film. So I guess in many respects it would be a horror film, but that film, just like I mentioned with the Substance, would not work. You wouldn't buy some of the things that happen in that film without the performance of Hugh Grant and what he does in that role. Like the his role in that film is creepy, and it's wild. A lot of the things that he does in that film, and I feel like that film very much depends on what you buy from his performance in that film, because we already have a preconceived idea of Hugh Grant when we're thinking of many of the roles that he plays, and I feel like with the character that you have in this film, it plays on that of kind of that unassuming, very nice person, and when he does that switch, like it's really insane what he's able to pull off with that character, and it's something that you don't really see a lot of in terms of how diabolical of a character that is. Like, I mean, Hugh Grant has done some characters where he has been villainous, but I don't feel like it's been to this degree. I don't know what your thoughts on are. Spill. I'm assuming that again there are some films again that you haven't had a chance to see. I still haven't seen Cons of Kindness, and that's on my to do because I did want to check that out. But out of the films that, like I said, are freshly in my mind, Heretic is one, and that was incredible with it.
Yeah, so I hate to tell you this, ladies and gentlemen, but
It's all good. It's going to be different by the
I'm very.
time we get to the actual award show. I know. Like I said, we just have the nominees now, and there's going to be some time before between here and now before we actually have the award show itself, where we can revisit this. But
And
maybe perhaps
these kind of lists lead to what I call an airplane movie, a movie when you're
okay,
captive and you don't have much to do, but you're trying to kill. Like, let's say you're waiting to pick up somebody from somewhere. You're like, all right, I got 2 hours. That's when I get to these kind of movies because I'm like, all right, I've heard things about it. I'm not paying for this. Like, Heretic sounds like a great movie. But like, I'm not giving Hugh Grant my money. Unfortunately, I gotta vote with my wallet. So, um, I would say, I guess I'm gonna defer to you here. But
okay, all right.
I'm into
No,
checking these out.
knowing the type of film that you would probably be into, I would say the Heretic would definitely be up your alley. Um,
Hmm.
I know for me that I did still want to check out Cons of Kindness, and I feel equally that that would probably be a film that you would be into. And I still have Saturday Night, which deals with the how Saturday Night Live came together. That was also about to do. So I mean, there are a lot of terrific lineup of films that are listed here with the performances that were a part of those said films that I wanted to check out. There's still time to do that, but out of them currently, I don't know if it's going to change upon seeing some of the other films here. If it's going to knock out I'm about to say Hugh Jackman. If it was going to knock out Hugh Grant's performance, because it's so far off from what we're accustomed to seeing Hugh Grant do as an actor that I really can't see any of these other performances knocking him out of the running for me as someone who would win. We'll see.
Right.
Maybe I'll feel differently. Maybe I'll feel differently in seeing Saturday Night, or Cons of Kindness, or a few of the other ones. We'll see. But going into best performance by a female actor in a supporting role in any motion picture, we have Ariana Grande for Wicked, Felicity Jones for The Brutalist, Isabella Rossellini for Conclave, Margaret Qualley for The Substance, Selena Gomez for Emilia Perez, and Zoe Saldana for Emilia Perez. Similarly, The Substance is something that I recently have seen, and yeah, I just mentioned it. The performances are what make that film work. The spectacle that happens is an extra added bonus that works in tandem with the performances, but the film wouldn't have worked without the those that were in those roles. And Margaret, in terms of what she brought to being that younger version of Demi Moore's character, she was terrific in it. So I'm sure you probably have something relatively brief, Spillman. But what are your thoughts among the nominees here?
I'm going for Ariana. Like, I feel like who doesn't like Glinda the Good Witch? They've been doing a big push in the media for the Wicked movie. I feel like they're going to win something, and I feel like this is where they're going to win.
All right, so moving on, as I said, I'm going to try to get through these quickly. We have best performance by actor in a supporting role in a motion picture. We have, of course, Denzel Washington for Gladiator 2, Edward Norton for Complete Unknown, Guy Pearce for The Brutalist, Jeremy Strong for The Apprentice, Kieran Culkin for Real Pain, and I apologize if I'm butchering your name, but Yura Borisov for Honora. As I mentioned before, fresh in my head, Apprentice, Jeremy Strong is outstanding as the attorney Roy Cohn, the real life late attorney of Trump, and who you could say kind of molded Trump into the person that he would eventually become, the real life Roy Cohn. And if we're talking about the performance that Jeremy Strong was able to portray with that character, it was outstanding what he was able to bring to that part, and it was the type of role that I would challenge you that it wouldn't intrigue you to learn more about the real life person, because I was not privy to the real life person. But in observing what he was able to bring to that character, it gave me the wherewithal to find out more about that character. Of course, you have other actors that are in this category that are recognizable, again, perennial folks when it comes to award season, when we're talking about Guy Pearce or Eric Gordon, and of course the great Denzel Washington. But I feel like Strong should be the person here that walks away with the win, but I wouldn't be surprised if we're talking about just the body of work that they've brought to the craft. I wouldn't be surprised if Washington, if Denzel Washington is given the win, because I know sometimes when we're talking about how a lot of the award seasons work, or to say how the award shows work, and how wins come about. Sometimes it's not always about the performance itself, and it's not to say that Denzel, isn't terrific in that role. He is. I just feel like among the performances that we have here, Strong was incredible as that real life person that he portrays in The Apprentice. And I feel like when we're talking about Denzel Washington, if he were to win, it's because I feel of um, people's appreciation for his overall body of work more so than what he brought to that character that he had in.
Okay. I actually saw a movie this one, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm not batting 1,000, but I got to go with my man Denzel Washington. He was diabolical in the Gladiator movie. He was running around doing all kinds of stuff. Like he was a tour de force. He was the eraser, but in ancient Rome. So it was very cool. He was much. I feel like he was on par with the Joaquin Phoenix character in the original Gladiator. So I'll give it to Denzel. He was definitely like you hated Denzel by the end of this movie. So I feel like you got to give
Oh
it to
wow,
Denzel.
wow,
Yeah, you
okay,
hated him by
okay.
the end of the movie. So
Oh wow,
it
wow,
was just
okay.
like he
All
he
right.
he was always he was moving in a way that it
Conniving,
just
conniving. I got you. I
yeah.
got you. Well, I mean, and as you said, it is freshly in your mind versus me having a chance to check it out, and I don't know, like even after seeing Gladiator 2, I still challenge you to check out The Apprentice to see how diabolical this character, this real life person was. And just considering how ruthless and uncompromising and diabolical this character was, as I said, I was like, this person can't be a real person. And then
He's very real.
I did, and then I had to do research on it, and I was like, wow, like to see what Strong does with this character. In a lot of times, it is a testament to what actors bring to certain roles, especially in biopics. If they're able to bring something incredible to a role, it allows you to become more invested in learning more about the person that they portray, and that's very much the case when it came to this project. It encouraged me to learn more about the real life person based on how ruthless and diabolical and uncompromising the character was in the film. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be mad also if Denzel ended up walking away with it. But I will say, song is quite good in The Apprentice, and like it would be deserved to get the win out of the nomination there. So if we're going to Best Director in a motion picture, I'll pull that up, see if I can up here. We have Brady Corbett for The Brutalist. And I apologize if I'm butchering butchering a few of these names, like the one that I have here. But Coralie Fargeet for The Substance. Edward Berger for Conclave. Jacques Audiard for Amelia Perez. Palia Adia for All We Imagine Is Light, and Sean Baker for Honora. Substance again, fresh in my mind. I'm rooting for that to win a Best Picture. However, I have heard great things, like I said, about Amelia. So that is something that one of the films listed there that is on my to do to check out. Obviously, check out the other films too, but prior to the other nominees here, I had previously heard things about Amelia Perez, as well as Conclave. But I am rooting for The Substance to walk away with.
I have not seen any of these, so I will. Uh, I'm going The Brutalist because that's got a cool name.
Okay. Well, I
And
know
that's
that
what I'm going for.
you had a chance. Yeah, I know you said that you already prior to the nominations that were made here, that Conclave
It's something I
was a
looked
film that
at.
you were
Yeah,
on,
yeah.
yeah, that you were on the way to checking out. So um, perhaps you might still continue to feel that way after seeing the film. Now that you know that it has been nominated, but as I said, man, you cannot go wrong with The Substance. I will I will be the cheerleading a supporter for that film, and how awesome it is. And as I said, and knowing what your tastes are when it comes to films, I don't know. I feel like you will really enjoy that film. But moving on, we're going to go into Best Screenplay for Motion Picture. We have Brady Corbett and Mona Fastbold for The Brutalist. Coralie Fargeet for The Substance once again. Jacques Audiard for Amelia Perez once again. We have Jesse Eisenberg for Real Pain. Peter Strogan for Conclave, and Sean Baker for Honora. Out of these films, and I'm going to go with Substance once again. It's great to see that it was nominated for Best Screenplay in this category. I would think, Spillman, that you might go away with Conclave, based on your prior plan to check out the film, but maybe there's something else listed here that you had heard about that you might perceive would have.
I'm gonna go with Jesse Eisenberg on this one because he's known as an actor. But if he wrote this movie and it's getting all this award buzz, they got to throw him a bone somewhere. And I think this is where they throw him a bone.
Okay, that is an interesting interesting
Because I was
stance.
looking at this just now and I was like, hey, wait a minute. This dude is in two places. He's doing a Kanye. He produced it and he rapped on it. So, like, to me, I feel like that's more talent. So I just feel like that's just way more talent. If you could write the movie and then star in the movie and the movie's good, and they're like, actually, this is like one of the best movies that came out this year. I feel like
No, I hear you.
that's
I hear you.
yeah.
And as I said, I am a fan of Jesse Eisenberg when it comes to what he brings as as an actor. And I'm curious to see what that looks like when he is also the writer of it as Will. And before we do that, I'm going on a quick tangent. Shout out to Sean. Hello, Sean. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us. Currently talking Golden Globes, but out of the films that are listed here that are recognized for what they've done with their screenplay, and have to go with the substance. Out of the films that are listed here, I have a sneaking suspicion that the substance might walk away with this one. I feel like for a lot of the films that are listed here, except for certain circumstances, that the substance with many of the categories that it is in, feel like it might end up being the quote unquote darling of this Golden Globes because of everything that you have going for it. You have going for it the fact that it is a film that you don't regularly see during award season. That when it comes to award shows, you don't always see a lot of genre related fare in terms of films being able to get the nod in certain categories. And with a film like this, it's being recognized in numerous categories, and it's not just when we're talking about a lot of these types of films. Maybe they may get recognized for one of the acting awards, or maybe they'll get recognized for Best Picture. But to have multiple nominations, I do feel like with those multiple nominations, that among the pack of respective nominees that it has in each of those categories, that it will end up coming away with the win in those said regards. So I do have it walking away in that regard when we're talking about screenplay. Now, best original score, motion picture. What's up for you guys? We have, and apologize for butchering your name if I do. Clement Ducol and Camille for Amelia Perez. Daniel Blumberg for The Brutalist. Hans Zimmer for Dune Part 2. Chris Bowers for The Wild Robot. Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross for Challengers, and Volker Bertelmann for Conclave. Among the folks that are listed here, I'm going to have to say, and seeing the film, that one of the nominees that are listed here and what that score was able to evoke, I'm going to have to give the nod here to Hans Zimmer. We're talking about the story of Dune 2 and how it's supposed to be sweeping, this sweeping epic, and the feeling that you come away with in many of those scenes, and how important a score is when we're talking about a lot of those moments from a said film. I feel like is captured in what Hans Zimmer was able to do. Perhaps you feel differently, Spillman.
I was actually going to say Hans Zimmer. I like the music in the first Dune, and I feel like he's a great composer. Um, Unfortunately, what's up, Sean? How's it going? Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like it is what it is. I think that that's the one that we're going with, Hans Zimmer.
Okay. All right. Cool. All right. So making our way down, we have Best Original Song. So we have Beautiful That Way for the last Showgirl, Compressed Repressed for Challengers, El Mal for Amelia Perez, Forbidden Road for Better Man, Kiss the Sky for the Wild Robot, and Mi Camino for Amelia Perez. So when we're talking about these said films, there were some films that are listed here that were already a part of my to-do in terms of checking out, even before they were nominated. And a good example of that would be Better Man. So if we're talking about Best Original Song, even though I have not seen it yet, and I may feel differently after checking out the nominees that are listed here, I feel that Forbidden Road could potentially take the Golden Globe here, just because of the subject matter that we have in terms of what the film deals with. I don't know if you had a chance to check out what Better Man was about, Spillman, but it follows. I don't know if you know who know Robbie Williams, the pop star Robbie Williams.
Oh yeah, but I was talking to my sister about that one. That's like his life story one, right?
Correct. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. See, I meant to see that one, so I'm gonna go with the Better Man, obviously, because Robbie Williams. He thought he was going to take over America, and then he realized that Americans don't really like the British. We had a whole war about it
Yo,
one time. We had a
what?
whole war about it. We had a whole war about it. Then he was like,
Oh
"Oh, these
wow!
Americans don't like us." It's like that's right,
Wow!
Robbie Williams.
Wow! Are
That
you
is
saying
right.
wow? Wow!
He was
Don't let me say
huge.
I do not
He was
endorse.
huge in the UK. I endorsed his movie, sure, but he learned that lesson. He had to learn the lesson. Drake is learning that same lesson right now. We don't like people with other countries in this country. We're very xenophobic,
Are
unfortunately.
you saying in terms of the style of music, or are you saying the person? You mean the
The
style of music?
person. No, it wasn't the style of music. His music was cool. It was cool music, I guess. He came in an awkward time in pop music because the white guy that's a singer, it wasn't really that big at the time. Like he thought he could get like a Justin Timberlake lane, but he didn't really have the production because he didn't know anybody. Because nobody wants to work with a British guy. I think Robin Thicke took his lane, maybe, but Robin Thicke is kind of Canadian, but he's like from the UK too. But
Wow, that
yeah, I
is
don't
an
know. I don't know.
incredible. That is an incredible hot take.
I don't know, ladies and gentlemen. That's a hot take, but I mean, that's what happened. He learned the lesson. Americans do not like Brits unless they're if it was like 50 years ago, maybe he could have been a Beatle or something. But the market,
Oh no,
we
I don't
don't
agree with
really do
that one,
that
man.
well. We don't do
But
that
I
well
feel
with
you.
British pop
I
singers.
feel you.
Like
I,
think about it. In the last 40 years, who's been the biggest British pop singer? That's a man.
I'm saying I'm gonna have to agree to disagree with you on that one, because the only reason why I say that is when I'm thinking of the songstress.
That's a lady. I'm not talking about ladies.
Oh, he's talking about
Because it
male,
used to be,
male.
it's been a lot. It used to be a lot of them all the time. But it's like he's like Jaleel Okafor. He's like the Jaleel Okafor of British pop
Wow,
singers. Like
wow,
maybe if he'd have been in Coldplay or something like that, he needed a band. But he wasn't a band guy. He was like
wow.
a guy that made pop music. He was Jaleel Okafor. He was a back to the basket big man, and they don't want those anymore in the NBA. So his career was short, just like Robert Williams. Love him. He's great, but that he had to learn that lesson.
You feel like you're in the minority in terms of how the music fans are in America, is what you're saying.
I feel like yeah, he's just they not looking
You're
for
in the
it. That's
minority.
he needed to learn how to shoot threes, and he never learned how to shoot threes. He needed to make different kind of music. He was still making European music when he got to America, and he didn't differentiate his sound really. It's a
Okay,
tale of
that's
his
fair.
time.
That's fair. That's fair. I understand what you're saying with that component. Your overall statement.
They
I
don't. They
can't.
just don't. We don't like the Brits here in America. We do. We make them hide their
But
accent
I gave examples
oftentimes.
though. I gave examples though where you still have artists who are also British that have been successful in America when it comes to the music industry. So I don't know, because when I gave that example, you differentiate. It's like, oh, that's a woman and not a guy, but
That's a
you
woman.
didn't
We're
make
not.
that
We're talking about.
you didn't
We're
make
talking
that
about.
differentiation.
You know.
You just said British. So I don't know, man. We
I'm
have to agree
just
to disagree on that one. But okay,
just trying
all
to
right,
tell you.
that's
You
fine.
know. It's like
Okay, fair enough.
it's like it's just a thing. But yeah. But I voted for him. I'm for him. But it is what it is.
Cool. So cinematic, here we go. Cinematic and box office achievement. We have Alien Romulus, Beetlejuice, Deadpool and Wolverine, Gladiator 2, Inside Out 2, The Wild Robot, Twisters, and Wicked. All right. So I'm going to say something pretty controversial here. I believe that Deadpool and Wolverine will win, but I am not rooting for them to win. And based on how I've made my other choices prior, still, do you have an idea of which one I'm hoping will win?
Alien Romulus.
There
No,
you go.
Beetlejuice. Oh, you didn't
No,
say
no,
Alien
you're
Romulus.
right.
See, yeah.
Alien Romulus. Alien Romulus. I mean, it's such is again not a film that you're going to typically see when we're talking about award season, but in terms of what was accomplished in that film and what Fede Alvarez had going up against him in doing this film and seeing that the last couple of Alien films, let's be honest, weren't really widely liked all that much, and what he was able to accomplish in, in this entry, I feel like what he was able to do not only should be recognized with him being a nominee, but should be recognized among his peers with all the other nominees that we have listed here. Um, I do feel like Deadpool and Wolverine will likely win, and it's just because it has everything working for it in terms of who you have in front of the camera. Folks love Ryan Reynolds, and don't get me wrong, Ryan Reynolds is awesome. Folks love Hugh Jackman. Don't get me wrong, Hugh Jackman is also awesome. I just, in cases like these, I want to see something that is not always the expected win and something that is not always seen in those categories to be able to win, to walk away with the win. And in a matter like that, I'm hoping that Alien walks away with it more so than Deadpool and Wolverine.
Well, that's great. That's great. But Deadpool and Wolverine is a better movie. I'm sorry to tell you. Wolverine was dicing people up like shish kebabs and stuff. It was so cool. I can't believe you. I'm really sad that you don't see the greatness for Wolverine and Deadpool. We spent hours talking on this specific program about how good that movie
And I agree
was.
with you. And I agree with you. But here's the thing: when we're talking about a horror film, I know with the other examples we were talking about how we had some films. This is a straight up horror film, and to have this film get recognized among all these other films, how often are you going to see a film like this in this category? And for it to have the opportunity to potentially win, I'm not saying that it will. I'm just saying that I hope that it does. I have, as I told you, I have Deadpool and Wolverine winning. I feel like it has everything working in its favor to do so. But considering how rare it is to have Alien Romulus among the other films that are in this category, I'm really rooting for it to win. So um, I believe that might be what we have. Might do it for our um, categories that we have for that. When we're talking about best television series, we have The Diplomat, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Shogun, Slow Horses, Squid Game, and Day of the Jackal. Um, a lot of these shows are again on my queue, but maybe more so, maybe differently for U.S. filming. A lot of these are on my queue, as I said, but have not gotten around to seeing it, and it's just because there's so much out there when we're talking about television series.
Yes, for sure. I would say Shogun was cool. But I would dare say Mr. and Mrs. Smith, of these is the one I saw the most of. I think Mr. and Mrs.
Okay.
Smith, the concept was good. Although my complaint was I didn't feel like the appeal of the Mr. and Mrs. Smith in this version was as drip off the screen as it was with the first one. Maybe because the
Okay.
last time they had a Mr. and Mrs. Smith, they were cheating on their spouses with each other. So that kind of comes through the magic of cinema. But they didn't seem to
I got
have that. Like it was much more spy-y, which was cool. Like they were doing stuff that it makes the spying seem more obvious, like the fact that they look more like regular people. Like you could walk past somebody who looks like Childish Gambino and not expect them to be like a super secret spy, or the lady that played his lead, the female lead. I don't know her name. I apologize,
Yes.
but it was very intriguing. Like there were times where it seemed like they were doing stuff you didn't know they were doing it, and then you realize, oh, these are
Mhm.
terrible people. Like especially the first episode. The first episode was incredible. So I got that one.
Okay, all right. I've heard a lot of great things from Shogun. Again, just haven't gotten around to checking it out, and I've heard great things about some of the other nominees that we have here, whether it's been the Diplomat. It's good to know that Mr. and Mrs. Smith is a series that I should add. Yet another series to add. As I said, there's so much out there in
On
terms
top
of
of One
shows to
Piece,
be
on
able to
top of
enjoy.
One Piece, ladies and gentlemen, he's got to
There you
start with
go.
One Piece. They
There
took
you
a six
go.
month hiatus. You can catch up.
There you go. But if we're talking about just the impact that a show has had, I have a sneaking suspicion that Squid Game is going to walk away with the Golden Globe. Um, I've heard great things, of course, from about Shogun, but when we're just talking about the impact of that show and how it has, in the same way that you have like a film like Black Panther that has um, stepped outside of its genre as a superhero film, but has become like a cultural phenomenon. Like the Squid, when we're talking Squid Game, the same thing has happened when we're talking about that show. So I would say that I I have that show walking away with the Golden Globe. But as I said, I've heard great things about Shogun, and um, it might surprise folks by also walking away.
Yeah, I think out of all of these, Shogun would be the most beautifully shot of them.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So best television series, musical or comedy: Abbott Elementary, The Bear, Hacks, Nobody Wants This, Only Murders in the Building, and The Gentleman. Heard great things about many of these shows, and believe it or not, like as I said, there's so much out there that sometimes it's tricky to be able to keep track of the time, the hours in the day to be able to check out a lot of these outstanding shows. Heard great things, obviously, about Abbott Elementary and The Bear, as well as Only Murders in the Building. But if I'm basing it upon the pedigree of what has been established in prior seasons of what the show has been able to accomplish, and I would assume that it's continuing to do if it's back here on this list. I would give it to the Bear potentially winning, with Abbott Elementary, being right there as a possible winner. But I have a feeling that it might be the Bear that walks away with it.
Yeah. Of these shows, I think the most enjoyable to me was probably. Can you put them up on the full screen for me? Because I can't really make it out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hold up. I got
Just
you.
give me 1 second there.
Uh, Here we go.
All right. I like Hacks. Hacks is actually a very good show. I like Hacks. I watched the Murderers one. That was a good one. Um, Pull it back up for me 1 more second, Brandon,
Okay, hold on.
before I think my
You clicked in. Go ahead.
Abbott Elementary. Abbott Elementary is a good show. I like some of the things. I think that this might be her year because I don't feel like they're going to go back to back years with the Bear. So I disagree with you there. The Gentleman, though, I did not see. So of these, and Nobody Wants This, I haven't seen. So out of these, I would say I know that you feel like the Bear because it's kind of a drama and those win a lot. But I think Only Murderers in the Building, because it's kind of like a big tent kind of a show because it talks to the older people and the Gen Z and those are kind of and also Hacks kind of does a similar kind of vibe. But I think that Only Murderers in the Building might be the one here.
Okay. All right. Gotcha. Now, best television limited series, anthology series, or motion picture made for television. got some ones that I feel are a given when we're talking about this category, but I'll go through them for you guys. We have Baby Reindeer. We have Disclaimer. We have Monsters, the Lau and Eric Menendez story. We have Ripley, The Penguin, and True Detective Night Country. If you know me and what my tastes are, there is one that immediately sticks out for me. But I'm also going to say that I'm picking this category, this series as a winner, also due to the fact of what it was able to accomplish, and of course that selection or that winner that I have would be the Penguin. When we're talking about having a series that is a spinoff of a film, not only is it a spinoff of a film, is a spin-off of a comic book, film, and is still able to establish its own identity outside of the main character that it is, or say the main hero that it is spun off from, and still make a story that is intriguing, that is interesting, to do a lot of world building with what you've established in the films and having it carry over to this film. What the actors have been able to accomplish in terms of doing these iconic characters that have been portrayed by other actors, yet bringing their own uh, talents to these roles, and everything else that you have that comes into play when we're talking about the physicality that comes, or should say the tools that are utilized to distinguish these characters. The makeup effects and things like that. I have to go with the Penguin. I don't know what your thoughts on thoughts are on this potential category, this particular category.
I think that you've got this all wrong. I think that the Penguin obviously is a great achievement for HBO Max and for Colin Farrell for his work as the Penguin. But I think that hands down, the monster has to win this. Will win this because they've been talking about freeing these two guys. Like they humanize these two people, Lyle Eric Menendez, who have famously in our culture been known as horrible murderers. Not to just not to talk with such blue language on on the show, but
Sure,
I
sure, I
feel
got
like
you. But go ahead.
I feel like there's a lot of good other shows on here. Baby Reindeer obviously is original story as well. It is the story of a man going through a time in his life, and it's a very interesting show. It's the kind of thing that will make your skin crawl. It's a very weird show. I would say that this is surprising because you didn't know as many of these TV ones, and I know all the TV ones. So we got it covered, ladies and gentlemen. I think honestly, Monsters is going to win because they're talking about giving the Menendez brothers clemency after a lot of the things that they talked about during the original trial that they got off originally for, but were retried and then found guilty. But with what was going on coming to light all this time later, people are re-examining that case, and this is kind of like I feel like this monsters show is kind of like what that podcast serial did for just the genre of podcast, because I feel like people are all about the we're all about the Menendez brothers this year, just like with all of the other things in the news that's been going on with that kind of issue. I feel like it's just going to win because they humanize these guys in a way that they really like. Because there's like they did the Jerry, the Ben Stiller did the spoof of them in one of his movies. Like it's always been a thing about them being like spoiled brats and stuff, and like the way that they humanize these guys in this show is just amazing. It's like it was a different time in the early '90s. Like they were like this is the equivalent of like the monster show was like the equivalent of if like they made a movie today about OJ that made OJ seem like the greatest person ever. Like everybody was like maybe he didn't do it. So I don't know. I feel like if that one doesn't win, it may be maybe Reindeer. I feel like it's an honor for Penguin to be nominated, but I don't think they're going to give it to him because I get that the Penguin is a great genre show, but I feel like the monsters one is a critic is a critic's like the kind of thing that critics really like, and the baby reindeer one. If you haven't watched that one, I feel like if you got a day where you got to do a lot of laundry, that's a show you need to watch because you will pause it while you're in the middle of doing the laundry. You'll be like, oh my god, this is crazy. This is crazy. You got to watch it with your you got to watch it with somebody so you can talk about it because maybe
Okay.
I'm telling you, it's just yeah.
Okay. Well, I will say I do have monsters. We've talked about it a lot here. Going through these Golden Globes of and I have this on my to-do list to check out in theories, or I have this in my queue to be able to check out, and many of these shows fall into that category even before they were able to receive the nod. Monsters was on there. True Detective is
True
on
Detective
what
is
I
a good
have.
show too. I like True
Yeah,
Detective as
yeah.
well. Jodie Foster was good in
Um,
that.
yeah, for sure, for sure. But man, like I said, in terms of what they were able to do with this series with the Penguin. Me talking about the Penguin, and we're talking about the history of how superhero films are perceived, or any type of superhero related property is adapted, to have a successful film, right? With the Batman, and to be able to successfully spin off a miniseries with the Penguin, to not rely on having, spoiler alert, I'm say this as a spoiler, to not rely on having Batman on any portion appearing in that show, but still being able to have an interesting show where you are excited or intrigued to see what's going to happen next. To have characters that disappear into their roles. I remember when I originally saw the Batman, and I didn't realize that was Colin Farrell. I was like, that's Colin Farrell. What they were able to do with the makeup effects to be able to change their actors, to be able to, similarly to what you were saying with monsters, to have someone where throughout the series, despite the fact that this is a character that's very much a villain, is not an anti-hero in any sense of the imagination, but as the series plays out, there are portions in there where you're like, maybe this person isn't so bad, maybe this guy isn't so bad, and then by the end of it, realize like, they played me. I thought that they were actually a decent person, and to realize that of course they're a villain. They're not a decent person. This is how they've been the entire time, and they to have the viewer fooled into having sympathy for that character. Similarly to what you're talking about, smelling with monsters, but to be able to accomplish it with this TV show while still being able to progress the story forward for what we might see in the Batman sequel, it was quite an achievement what they were able to do with the Penguin. But moving down, we have best performance by a female actor in a television series or drama. We have Anna Saway, which again I apologize if I butchered your last name, for Shogun. Emma D'Arcy for House of the Dragon. Kathy Bates for Matlock. Keira Knightley for Black Doves. Kerry Russell for The Diplomat, and Maya Erskine for Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Spillman, I already have an idea of who I would select in this regard, just based on how iconic that role is, I feel, and what they were able to bring to it. But perhaps you have a different idea of walk away with the globe here.
Um, as far as the performances that I saw, I only really saw. Can you put it full screen for me one more time? I just can't.
Sure.
Can't see their names here. I'm trying to look crazy. Uh,
There you
yeah,
go.
so I got actually I watched a few episodes of Diplomat now that I'm thinking about it. So I do remember Kerry Russell being very intriguing in that. But I'm probably gonna go with Maya Erskine because in that show, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, she demonstrated a level like her acting ability, making it made me believe that she was a spy. Like it was very believable that she was a spy in that show. And then the rest of these. I guess Emma DRC is probably going to really win because everybody likes House of Dragon. Um, I'm not the biggest fan of that franchise, the Game of Thrones franchise. But I think she's going to win. Unfortunately, I think that's just because I mean she and I watched most of the first season of that show, and she was pretty good in her portrayal. So I'll give it to her.
Okay. You're ahead of the game in terms of the shows performances that you've seen. As I said, I have not seen Mr. and Mrs. Smith yet, the series. But I have to go, of course, with Game of Thrones. Emma, she is outstanding in
Yeah,
that role. Um, if we're talking about who will likely win. I actually believe that Emma is not the favorite here. I do believe we're talking about, and it's kind of similar to what I had mentioned with Denzel Washington a few nominations ago, body of work and what they've done in their career, and not necessarily the role that they're being nominated for, but recognizing that they're still actively working despite the body of work that they've already given us. And with that in mind, I do believe that Kathy Bates. I have not seen Matlock yet. It is on my to-do list to check out, but I do believe that she is going to walk away with the win, because I know when it comes to award shows, a lot of times they do enjoy just that idea of rewarding a lot of our said actors and actresses who have been at it for a long time. And sometimes they give that win, not necessarily for the role that they are being nominated for that year, but just to be able to recognize what they have done prior as their body of work, and to also recognize the fact that they are still actively working and giving out terrific performance among their peers. So I do believe that Kathy Bates is going to walk away with it. However, for me personally, I'm hoping that Emma wins.
Okay.
All right, so nearly done here, guys. I know we had a couple of nominations here, but we don't normally go through a lot of the awards related fare, but I wanted to be able to, um, even if it is briefly, to recognize those that were nominated. We have best performance by actor in a television series or drama. We have Billy Bob Thornton for Landman, Donald Glover for Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Eddie Redmayne for Day of the Jackal, Gary Oldman for Slow Horses, Hiroyuki Sanada for Shogun, and Jake Gyllenhaal for Presumed Innocent. Out of the series that we have here, I have heard great things about Presumed Innocent. It is in my queue to be able to out, as well as, of course, Shogun. When we're talking about those that are in this category, I actually have Hiroyuki taking the win here. Shogun, and I also personally am hoping that he wins, but I do believe that he out of the peers that he has here as his fellow nominees, I have a sneaking suspicion, Spillman, that you're going to go with Glover.
You think I'm gonna go with Glover?
I think so.
That's where you're wrong. Hiro Shinada was crazy in that show, Shogun, man. It made me want to go back to feudal Japan, get me a katana blade, and then begin the Bushido Code. I would love to do that. He was so cold in this. I liked Donald Glover, but he didn't have the level of like he didn't have the it like Brad Pitt had in the original Mr. and Mrs. Smith to me. And he didn't bring it as a
Charisma.
spy. He kind of seemed like he didn't know what was going on to me. I like
Okay.
Donald Glover. He's very good in TV stuff. I would like to check out the Gary Oldman series. So yeah, I think that's pretty cool. But Gambino was cool, but he was okay.
Okay. All right. So best performance by a female actor in a television series, musical or comedy. We have now. I apologize if I'm butchering it, but Io, Debiri for the Bear, Jean Smart for Hacks, Catherine Hahn for Agatha All Along, Kristen Bell for Nobody Wants This, Quinta Brunson for Abbott Elementary, and Selena Gomez for Only Murders in the Building. All right, so looking at what we have here, I wouldn't be surprised if Catherine Hahn won the award for Agatha All Along. However, if I'm thinking of the pedigree that you have there with prior work with prior seasons and what the show has accomplished, and obviously it would not be able to accomplish it without the talented actress that is listed here among the nominees. I believe that Quinta Brunson is going to walk away with it. However, I wouldn't be surprised if Han ends up being a dark horse to take it.
Um, I feel like Selena Gomez might have a lot of dark horse underdog thing because she really carries that show with Martin Short and Steve Martin in it, which is
Okay.
pretty fantastic. What's her name in Hacks? She was amazing in that show. She had a heart. That show had a heartbeat, and I feel like she was the heartbeat of it. In the show, she really portrays a mentor figure. I feel like that may Gene Smart may win it. But Quinta, obviously, this is I feel like the year of Abbott Elementary, and she's done so many good things with that show. That show was like memed everywhere. There's so much about that show. Like it's kind of revived the genre. So I feel like she should get it, but I don't know if they'll give it to her because she's so successful. I feel like they penalize people sometimes for being so successful that when you're as successful as her, they don't give you the awards for things because they feel like, oh, you've got the box office or the money. But I feel like definitely because she's revived the sitcom genre because it hasn't really been a big sitcom out like that's hit like Abbott Elementary. It's been a lot of them that's been hit hit there, but I feel like Abbott Elementary has really been a successful one.
Okay. All right. So best performance by actor in a television series, musical or comedy. We have Adam Brody for Nobody Wants This, Jason Segel for Shrinking, Jeremy Allen White for The Bear, Martin Short for Only Murders in the Building, Steve Martin, Only Murders in the Building, and Ted Danson, Man on the Inside. Spillman, uh, based off of the list of folks that we have here, we're talking about pedigree again, going back to that pedigree of shows that are consistently uh, recognized for how outstanding it is, and knowing that those said series would not be able to be recognized in such a way if it's not for the talent that is involved with it. I do have Jeremy walking away in this regard. However, it would be so cool to have either Martin Short or Steve Martin get the win for Golden Globe.
I feel like that Martin Short and Steve Martin are going to get penalized, like D Wade and LeBron when they was playing together with the Heat, because they are fantastic on that show. Just like I was saying about Selena Gomez, the way that they play off each other is just, it makes you kind of sad that Chevy Chase was such a butthead all his life, because he could be doing these kind of things with them and they could be playing off each other like the three amigos, and we'll never get anything like that ever again because he's such a butthead. And that's unfortunate. But these two guys, like, that show has so much heart. And I just feel like, it's a great show. The fact that both of them got nominated lets you know that it's a great show, because, like, it might be, you might look at that as kind of like a lifetime achievement thing because they've been great in Hollywood for so long. But the show, just like I said earlier, when when they showed it, when we showed it in other categories, it's had such a great it crosses so many demographics, and it's funny in that way. I didn't see I have Apple TV, and I just got Apple TV back, so I haven't checked out the Jason Segel thing, but I've seen good things about that. And then obviously the guy from The Bear, because he's smizes. Look at that picture. He's smizing in the picture. He's probably going to win because of that smize. Look at him smizing. They're going to give it to him because this is the kind of thing that is it's a lot more female writers, and they may go for that because that's how they get you. They fall for, well, I fall for similar things, but I feel like he's going to win that just because they got to give the Bear something, and then
Not
his
because of his
co-star.
ability, not because of his abilities as an
He
actor,
plays the
but
same
because of
character
the
in every
photo.
single show. He plays the same character in every single show. He's playing that kid from what was the name of that show? Shameless. He's playing the kid from Shameless. This is just Shameless. Now he's working in a kitchen. It's not a new idea. He's the same character in all his shows. He doesn't play anybody else. I get that, he's got acting chops, but he's the same kind of guy. He's like a guy that your sister may date, and you'd be like, "Hey, man, you gotta leave that guy alone. He's kind of greasy." But then you see him, and you're like, "But he's got a heart of gold, so I'm okay with him. He stands right by you, sis. I like him."
Oh man. But moving on, and we're nearly at the end of what we have here. Best performance by a female actor in a limited series, anthology series, or motion picture made for television. Going down the list, we have Kate Blanchett for Disclaimer, Kristen Milioti for The Penguin, Jodie Foster for True Detective Night Country, Kate Winslet for The Regime, Naomi Watts for Feud, Capote versus the Swans, and Sofia Vergara for
Griselda.
Griseldi. Thank you.
Oh
I
yeah,
can talk today.
Griselda.
Cannot talk today. But if we're talking about the performances that we have here, Griseldi, I've heard great things about. I haven't had a chance to check out yet. And I've heard great things about Feud as well. But based off of what I've mentioned before, I have to go with Kristen, just because when we're talking about the character that she brings to life in Penguin, she immediately like commands the screen. I feel like in a lot of moments she actually steals the show away from Colin Farrell and what she's able to bring to that character. Immediately when you're introduced to that character, you're immediately drawn to her, and that's because of the talent that she has as an actress and being able to create a character that's not only dangerous, but a character that you also sympathize with based on the backstory that they provide of her being in Arkham Asylum and how she ends up there. I can't say enough, great things about Kristen and what she brought to that role. I have her winning for the Golden Globe there, but perhaps you feel differently, Spillman.
I unfortunately have to disagree with you here. Can you expand it for me one more time? I feel like Kristen was a strong lead. But I think Jodie Foster, because this is her return to the screen, it may be it may be her. Sofia Vergara was great in Griselda. She really
Yeah,
captured Griselda Blanco, godmother of cocaine, as it is.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I feel like she really captured that role. Um, but Jodie Foster was really good in True Detective. I don't think that it was like the best show of this year. So um, I dare say, with the way that this competition is, Kate Blanchett and the Kate Winslet shows, I didn't watch either of those, The Regime or Disclaimer, but I feel
Okay,
like one of those two will win. I understand
okay.
what you're saying about the Penguin. It did great things, but I just, I just don't think that, like, when it comes to awards, I don't think that they give awards to the. I feel like there's a comic book demerit almost. Like, if you were like, there's certain genres where they don't give awards to, and it's just like, okay, um, I
I do
don't know
like
if.
what you said about Jodie Foster because that is something that you do see when it comes to award shows and award season that when they are making, and it's not to say that she's been like retired, right? But to be able to come back to a role of that magnitude with True Detective and to be recognized in that role when it comes to that type of thing and that quote unquote is not really a comeback but a return, if you will. Um, I can see how you would feel that she would be someone who could potentially walk away with the Golden Globe. Um, the only reason why again I bring up Kristen is based on all the things, and I won't repeat them again, but all the things that I mentioned before of just how big of a achievement the Penguin was, and those components that allowed it to really succeed couldn't have happened without one of those factors. And additionally, I feel like maybe not so much with the Oscars, but with the Golden Globes, there's a higher potential. I feel for there to be instances where they play against what is expected, and they'll give the win to someone who, based on the project, even despite the project they're a part of, will not only give them a nod, but will also have them win in that said category. But we'll see. We'll see. Um, Into best performance by a female actor in a supporting role on television. We have Allison Janney for The Diplomat, Dakota Fanning for Ripley, Hannah uh, Ian Bonder for Hacks, Jessica Gunning for Baby Reindeer, Kaylee Reyes for True Detective, Night Country, and Lisa Colin Zayas for The Bear. Spillman, if we're talking about this category, again, I believe if we're saying based on prior, prior pedigree that I mentioned before, because I had not had an opportunity to see the shows listed here, that again, you would have to base it upon the fact that those shows would not work without the talent that are involved with it. Even though I have not seen the projects here, I believe that Lisa for the Bear will walk away here. I may feel differently once I've had a chance to check out some of the performances here, but just blindly, if I'm basing it off of prior pedigree, excuse me, I can talk today. Prior pedigree of how the series have done previously and how it is recognized for its achievement as a series. It would not be able to achieve that without not only the talents behind the camera, but also those in front of it. And to have Lisa as someone who is being recognized for what the achievement that she had as an actress in this series that is frequently recognized, Lisa, I believe, will win.
All right. So I'd have to disagree with you because of the nature of these shows. The person who embodied the best in the show is the young lady from Lady Ringdeer. Um, she portrays like a Kathy Bates type character in the show, like Kathy Bates from Misery type character, and like
Yes,
there would
yes.
be no like she's the star of that show. She's the Steve Urkel of that show. Like, the show isn't like about her, but the show is about her. Like it's her show. So like I feel like she captured that character so well, and it's kind of based loosely on her true story. Um, so I just feel like her character portrayal in that show, like that this is the only I think this is the only actor nomination from this show because of her. And like I'm saying, like when I tell you this is a show that you can like you'll finish it in a day. Like you won't be like if you start watching it like 9 o'clock, you're just gonna go into work groggy tomorrow because you gotta finish the show. It's like one of those kind of shows where you're like, oh my God, like what? Like it's just it has to be based off of real life because if someone wrote this down and it didn't actually happen, you'd be like, this is too fantastic. There's no way that all this happened. They'd be like, all of this happened in this show. Like it's just a crazy show, and it's the kind of show that the voters for something like the Golden Globes would have loved. And I feel like it's one of those shows that drives coffee room talk in offices and stuff where you're like, oh my God, did you see that baby reindeer? It's like, oh my God, baby reindeer. Um, people have people I've watched the show with are like, am I Martha? Because like everybody just hopes that they're not her character in the show. So I just feel like it's going to be her hands down, and I'm gonna be happy for her because that show was just it's one of those shows that like
I gotta check it out. I
it
gotta
makes
check it out.
streaming worth watching. Like it's a binge show. It's like it's for that. I feel like binging is now kind of its own genre of show where it's like Tiger King and all those kind of shows that you be like, I just gotta watch it, sit down and knock it out. That's one of those shows. So for sure,
All
I
right,
think it's
cool.
gonna
So you
be
got
big and Remake.
Jessica Gunning.
Yeah,
Cool.
I think
All
she
right.
might win.
So all right, bet. So best performance by a male actor in a limited series, anthology series, or motion picture made for television. We have Andrew Scott for Ripley, Colin Farrell for The Penguin, Cooper Koch for Monsters the Wild and Eric Menendez story, Ewan McGregor for A Gentleman in Moscow, Kevin Kline for Disclaimer, and Richard Gadd for Baby Reindeer. Based off of what you just said, Spillman, I have a guess that you might go with Richard, but for those that know me and how I've selected based on my prior selections, I'm gonna go with Colin Farrell. But am I right in my assumption that you're gonna go with Richard Gadd?
I'm not sure. Let me see this list again.
Let me see if I can put it up for you here.
Let's see this.
Okay.
I would have said Richard Gould, but I will not say Richard Gadd. It's actually Cooper Koch. Or no, he's not the other. I would have put it for the Menendez brother, but this is not didn't play Eric. He played the other brother. He played Eric. He didn't play Lyle. Lyle's the other one. The Lyle brother, if they had him in this role, I feel like he was the better actor in that show. So
Okay.
with that, um looks like you're right. I will go with Richard Gadd, but he's probably not going to win for this show because he's up against some heavyweights, and this is kind of like his own thing. I feel like they're going to give it to the girl that played Martha and not him. So actually, in this one, I think your boy Colin Farrell may sneak out a win. But Cooper
Out,
Koch,
sneak out. I like the verbiage. Sneak
I
out a
feel like
win.
it's a
Okay.
sneak out the
Okay.
win because unfortunately, I know that the comic book genre is big, but it's never really critically honored in these kind of things because people look at the comic book stuff as like just kind of cannon fodder, so somewhat. So
Well,
I
see,
think
that's just it. Remember, I was mentioning how right, like when we're talking about the superhero genre, it's not always recognized for a ton of different categories, right? But even though it's not recognized for a ton of different categories, when it is recognized for just one category, there is, a high, there has been a precedent set for it to win, especially when we're talking about the acting component of it. When we're talking about acting related nominations, and I can think back on what is it on Joker multiple times, obviously as one. So if we're talking about that and that prior history of what we've seen in award shows, I do see Colin Farrell winning for that reason, but also for all the reasons that I mentioned before when it just comes to the Penguin as a series. Um, so as I believe you designated Richard as your win, but I do have Colin as my winner there. Best performance by a male actor in a supporting role on television. We have Diego Luna for La Machina, Eben Moss, Balrock for The Bear, Harrison Ford for Shrinking, Jack Lowden for Slow Horses, Javier Bardem for Monsters, The Loud and Eric Menendez Story, and Tadanabu Asano for Shogun. So when we're thinking about these said roles, I'm guessing, Spillman, that you're going to go with Javier Bardem for Monster. But if we're talking about I feel what's going to be recognized among series, like what I feel is going to be one of the other darlings in terms of series that have received multiple nominations. I have Asano winning for Shogun.
Maximize it one more time for me.
But then, there you go.
Okay, so Javier Bardem was very good in Monsters, but I don't feel like he was the second best supporting actor on that cast. Obviously, he was a big part of that show, um, but I may have to agree with you and put it on Tanabu Asano. But Javier Bardem was very good as their father. Again, he did give him a level of humanity that made his character into the monster that he was, as far as what was said about him in that court case. Um, Again, they portrayed them in such a way that they were able to get clemency for the Menendez brothers, as we've heard. So I don't know. I think that when you got stuff like that where you're making a piece of work that makes people want to change decisions in law. I feel like that's a level of show that's just that's uncanny, and I feel like people big up to hype on stuff like that. So I think that will definitely do that.
Okay, all right, awesome. And I feel like that's fitting in talking about the very last category. And I'm going to pull this one up for you guys for the Golden Globes. And this is for stand up. So let me get this up for you guys. It will pull up. There we go. All right, so for stand up, we have Adam's best performance in stand up comedy on television. Adam Sandler, Love You. Ali Wong for Single Lady. Jamie Foxx. I know we were just talking about that off the air. Spillman. Jamie Foxx. What had happened was Nikki Glaser. Someday You'll Die. Raimi Youssef for More Feelings, and Seth Meyers for Dead Man Walking. Of the shows that we have here, I haven't had a chance. I do have Jamie Foxx on my queue. I do have it on my queue to check out. Haven't had a chance to see it yet. But I'm gonna say it'll be interesting because we haven't really talked about this, but Nikki Glaser is actually hosting the Golden Globes. That'll be interesting to see if they actually give her the win for Someday You'll Die. But from what you're telling me, Spillman, you said that Jamie Foxx, what had happened was interesting watch.
Yes, I think that Jamie Foxx will probably win the Golden Globe for this special. Um, it's a special in the vein of Richard Pryor live on Sunset, when he talks about his issues with his addiction and everything.
Yeah,
I feel like Jamie Foxx was very much in a place on this special where he humanized himself in a way that will really connect him with not only people who watch the show, but I think critics. It gets heavy at points. There are points where it gets kind of heavy, but I think it's definitely a showcase of his talents. Like I don't feel like I feel like he's in a place now where he's not just a stand-up comedian. Like obviously he's done so much stand-up and so many great characters over the years that he just like kind of does his whole thing. And it's just, you know, I don't think that it's been years since Jamie Foxx has had a special. So I feel like that is just a perfect storm. He just beat he came back from a stroke. I just feel like it's a perfect storm. I don't know how else to put it. I think that that's just what it is.
yeah.
I think
All
he's
right.
going to
And
probably
I
win it.
mean, all of those, yeah,
The
all of
other
those are
ones,
great
and some
points.
I've seen some of them. I've seen some of them. Like I think I've seen the Nikki Glazer one that was pretty funny. I think it was very. It
Yeah,
came out earlier this year, correct?
yeah.
Yeah, I think I saw the Ali Wong one, and hers was pretty good too. But all of these outside of the Jamie Foxx one are your traditional stand-up special where you just come out, tell some jokes, da da da. You get in your thing. But like the Jamie Foxx one, it just like the fact that it officially came out like 3 weeks ago or like last week and it's nominated for a Golden Globe lets you know that they weren't like it
It's
humanized
supposed to
Jamie
be funny,
Foxx.
but there's a lot in there
It's
that
some
is
real
very
stuff in there that's real, that's very real, but it is a lot of funny stuff in there for sure. So it's just like,
okay.
yeah.
I mean, I would be happy to see Jamie, win a Golden Globe. I wouldn't be mad at that. As I said, I have it in my queue, and I still need to check it out. And I may feel differently by the time I see it before the show airs. But I will say there is an opportunity here to do something in having Glacier win, because, as I said, you have her hosting the show. So, not to say that she should win because she's a host. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying also that it is something that would be a cool component of the show if they have the host being nominated, but also having them win the award. Because how would that work? If should they win? Um, how would that work of them hopping on there to be able to accept the award while they're also the host? So that would be an interesting dynamic. I was saying this in the context of the show, but I can't argue with what you said about Fox's performance, and I do want to check it out. So I feel differently after seeing it.
The man came back to the comedy stage after beating a stroke. That's award season gold. People like
Sure.
stories like that. It's a return to force. Like that's just a thing. Like, it was so much news this year, and so many people thought we were gonna lose Jamie Foxx. I'm one of them. I really thought like, dang, that's it. But he came back and he's back on the stage. I feel like he's just gonna win the award for that, man.
For sure. For sure. All right. So we're gonna dive finally out of the Golden Globes. Thank you guys so much for tuning in with us. I wanted to be able to play a video to talk about our next said story, and let me know if you guys can hear this. See if I can pull this up for you guys, for the return of a little show that many of us, perhaps when we were, perhaps in high school, had the pleasure of checking out. See if I can get it up here. Let me know if you guys can hear it. Here we go. I'm gonna play it.
I have been waiting for this moment for 18 years. Let's find out where Malcolm and his family are now.
25 years since we premiered Malcolm in the Middle. I'm so excited that I may have peed just a little bit. Excuse me.
What a delight that I get to yell at that kid again. We are very, very excited about coming back together and seeing what this family has been up to.
Malcolm!
Malcolm!
All right, so there you guys have it. I don't know if it was clear enough to see, if you were able to see it, Spillman, but yes, we do have the return of Malcolm in the Middle, of new episodes of Malcolm in the Middle making its way over to Disney Plus. It's crazy to believe that it has been that long when they were mentioning the hiatus that it's been since that show. Spillman, are you excited to hear about this announcement and seeing the show return? By that face, I take it as a no.
No, sir, ladies and gentlemen. I do not want to see Malcolm in the Middle again. I hate when shows do this. Like, this is a clear cash grab. It's on the cash grab is one of the cash grab is the cash grab applications, which is the Disney Plus app. I'm on to you, Disney Plus, but don't penalize me as well. I'm sorry if this is a bad thing. But I just feel like Malcolm in the Middle was a great show, but we moved on. I mean, I'd like to see the other actors get some shine. Bryan Cranston obviously is the only one that's really done anything since then. Um, so yeah, I'm interested to see what they. I'm not actually interested. I apologize. I was trying to be generous, and I'm not interested to see what they do with this because it's going to be kind of tight by the numbers, and I don't want to see that.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. I guess for me, it was a show that I regularly watched, and I do understand your sentiment that it would be considered a cash grab. And I would say this: I'm curious to see what they're going to do to not only recapture the comedy of that show, because I feel like a lot of the comedy of that show is just the nature of growing up, and a lot of it came out of those characters, the kids themselves growing up, and how the dynamic with them and their parents. And I don't know if they'll still be able to recapture that if they're trying to do that now with the kids being parents, because that's the only way that you can kind of still do the show to make it fresh is by now having the kids now be parents. But I don't know if they can create that same dynamic with the kids being parents that they had with the parents being those parental figures on the show. That makes sense. So I understand your sentiment. It's just a cool idea to see them coming back. And
No, it's
it's
not. That's lazy. That's lazy writing. That's lazy writing. What are these people's kids doing? Great, great. You can do
I
that
mean,
for
I have
you
no
can do that
proof.
for every single story in the history of stories. And
I have
now
no
this
proof that that's
sucks.
the way that they're going. I'm just assuming that
What else
they
can you
haven't
do
gone
with
into
that
more
show?
details, but
What
they
else
may
can
do
you do with
something
that
different.
show?
We'll see. We'll see. They may do something different, but I'm assuming that's the way they're going to go. But
Terrible.
yeah. But getting into the next component of what we have there, speaking of another return, we did get confirmation via social media that OG Final Girl Jennifer Love Hewitt is making her return to I Know What You Did Last Summer, to the sequel that we had previously, talked about on a prior show. She will again be joined by her OG co-star Freddie Prinze Jr. And we have a couple of other newcomers that are joining the film. But Spillman, what are your thoughts on Jennifer Love Hewitt making her return to I Know What You Did Last Summer, to that franchise?
I think it's
I
just,
feel
you
like
know,
that's an
more.
example of what you mentioned before, but go ahead.
Yeah, this is painting by the numbers again. We talked about this a little bit last week, and I think that, you know, I said
It
obviously
applies.
she's coming back. Yeah, she's got to come back. They can't do that movie without her. So obviously she's going to be back. Yay, you know, hooray for us elder millennials. This is a movie for us. This is a movie for us, elder millennials. You know, some of us are grandparents, some of us are first time parents. Hooray. Some of us are not parents yet, but we're still going to go out and give Jennifer Love Hewitt our money because that's what we do. We give Jennifer Love Hewitt money. And somebody was like, you know what? Let's get some of that Jennifer Love Hewitt money.
Well, I'll say this. Good on Jennifer Love Hewitt, still doing her thing. Um, uh, I will disagree with you, and this is the post that she had highlighting her return to the franchise. I will say that I do disagree in the fact that I'm trying to remember. There was a point that you had made, but I'll say this. I'm happy to see that she's doing her thing. I'm happy to see that she is making a return. But now I remember what it was. You had mentioned that it was a given that she was coming back. I would argue that it isn't a given because they could have gone either way based on what happened at the end of the last film. I know it's
Oh
been
my
years since
God.
people have seen the
Oh
last
my
film.
God. They wouldn't have made another one of these movies without putting her in the movie. Just like they didn't make
But
Beetlejuice until
hold on.
Michael Keaton came back. You gotta get the person in the
No,
movie.
but I'm saying, here's what I'm saying. He could still be in the film, right? But it could be flashbacks of what, of time that Freddie Prinze had with the character. Maybe Freddie Prinze lost her in the closing moments of the last film, and so he's still remembering, the time that was spent with her. So like she still could have been in the film, just not alive. But there was still a way that they could have done it, and this had him as someone who was an OG character from the original and was like traumatized by like her murder or something. But maybe maybe I don't know. Maybe she was just dreaming of that moment at the end of the last film. So, because if memory serves, she was pulled or in the closing credits was taken by the killer. They don't show her dying, but the killer grabs her and then it's in credits. So we'll see. We shall see. But again, have OG Final Girl Jennifer Love Hewitt making her return to I Know What You Did Last Summer, to the sequel. It's making its way to theaters in July of next year. Continuing what we had with our segment with film and TV, we did have news of Austin Butler joining the American Psycho remake. We also have Dexter Original Sin that premiered this week, and news about Sony ending the Spiderverse. So when we're talking about Austin Butler, as I said, he will be joining the remake that we have for American Psycho. If memory serves, the original film came out in 2000, but if we're talking about just the film in and of itself, you don't recognize Austin Butler. He was previously in, speaking of what we have with the Golden Globes, he was the villain in Dune Part 2, and he also previously, before that, played Elvis in the Elvis biopic. But it was an exclusive from Variety, revealing that it hasn't been confirmed as of yet, but he is in the running to take on that role of Patrick Bateman. And this is apparently a new interpretation of the original American Psycho book by Brett Eden Ellis for Lionsgate. It's a film that is going to be adapted by Scott Z. Burns, who did Laundromat. And the article states that, again, this will be a new interpretation of the the book that was originally adapted in 2000, starring, of course, Christian Bale. But in all intents and purposes, the reason why I mention it as a remake is, let's be honest, it is likely going to revisit a lot of those said moments from the film that we have in 2000, because again, it's being adapted from the same. But Spillman, what are your thoughts on Austin Butler taking on the role that was made famous by Christian Bale almost 25 years ago? It's crazy to think.
I'm okay with it. We'll see. You know, I feel like American Psycho. A lot of people missed the point of that movie. That dude was crazy, and he didn't actually do any of that stuff in that movie. Um, you know, because he gets at the end of the movie, and the landlord is just like, "You gotta get out of here." That wouldn't happen in real life. That isn't how it goes. You can't like throw a chainsaw. Like also, like he did a lot of like fantastical things. Like he threw a chainsaw down a flight of stairs, and no one did anything. Like, don't you think that
Right.
that's like thinking back to that movie? Like, there's so much stuff. Like, he's clearly hallucinating the whole time. He doesn't know who he is. People see people
I
that
mean,
he
I guess I'll
allegedly
say
does stuff to.
I'm looking. I'm gonna say I'm looking forward definitely to some moments that are iconic from the original adaptation that we had. Uh, the card scene is iconic of how he's losing his mind over competing over who has the better business card among his
Yeah,
coworkers. And there is an opportunity. I know they did say it is they mentioned that it will be a reinterpretation of the original work. So I guess there will be an opportunity to dive into other things that maybe the 2000 interpretation of it didn't dive into. Uh, there are a lot of components of it that I know that they kind of diverted away from in terms of the erotic aspects of the said work that they may dive deeper into, maybe with this new interpretation of it, just to maybe, I guess, distinguish itself. But again, at the end of the day, let's be honest, it is a remake, and the only other reason why I mention that too is when it comes to a recognizable IP, American Psycho is a recognizable IP. And let's honestly, I'm just saying, in terms of what we have with our films that have been done, if it spawned a sequel, then I feel like it's a recognizable IP. If there was enough there for them to decide, because a lot of people forget that it ended up having a sequel that starred Mila Kunis. Didn't come out in theaters, but they still did a sequel for it. If it is a recognizable enough IP where that it is able to spawn a sequel and is recognizable enough that folks are curious who's going to take on a role that was previously played by another actor, and I feel like that is licensed to say that it is a remake, because let's be honest, you wouldn't have made or bothered doing this film if you didn't believe that people would recognize it immediately by name. That is going to wrap up what we have with Austin Butler starring as in an American Psycho remake. I wanted to similarly get into another component, another TV show that I feel is similar in that regard to American Psycho in a way, and that will be with Dexter Original Sin. And the reason why I say that is how they kind of have some synergy that is similar, is that you have a character that always has an inner dialogue working, and when we have the original American Psycho, you have a lot of Patrick Bateman's inner dialogue continuously happening throughout the film, and that happens very much in Dexter. There is the added component of Dexter Original Sin being a prequel of earlier versions of these characters that we've come to know from the world of Dexter, whether it's Dexter himself, being that avenging character who has those serial killer like qualities that he goes after other bad guys, but also the other coworkers that he has in the Miami PD that are that are eccentric in their own unique ways, and being able to recapture that. I don't know if you had a chance to see the first episode that aired this week, Spillman, but I have to
I
say,
haven't
like,
checked the first episode yet, but you're saying it's pretty good.
it's pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. I was a little skeptical myself in seeing what they would do with some of the characters, and if I felt the same way. Um, they're able to, I feel, give a sense of the prior characters, and it still feels like those prior characters in some instances. And in some instances, it's almost like scary how much they look so much like the younger versions of Bautista or Debbie or Dexter himself. Uh, but I'm curious to see what they're going to do with what has been established in brief flashbacks from the original series to this show, because there are some characters that are never alluded to when we get into that first season of Dexter, and they are a part of this series, so that immediately makes me think that they're not going to make it through the show. But we'll see. And of course, they have Sarah Michelle Gellar in there, so it doesn't hurt to have her, included in the goings on at the Miami PD as the person who's in charge of forensics. So, but I definitely would say check it out. I did have a chance to see it over this weekend and did enjoy it. I'm just bummed that unlike some shows where they give us multiple episodes to start, they literally just give you the one episode. Really do have to watch have to be settled on the one episode and wait till the next episode. But otherwise, it's a solid start to the show, what they were able to. And lastly, what we have here is Sony ending the Spiderverse. That's what we had as our main event topic. And I wanted to go into a slight deep dive into that. So there have been news, especially considering that Kraven the Hunter arrived this weekend to theaters. But there have been rumors, going around in the industry based on the diminishing returns of Sony Spider-Verse with films such as Morbius and Madam Web, and now including Kraven the Hunter, that Sony's production of such films will come to an end. However, in an exclusive from Variety, despite the disappointing expected business from the latest Sony Spider-Verse films, the idea is that Sony will in fact continue its Marvel film, perhaps not doing films that are secondary to Spider-Man, but perhaps including Spider-Man in their said films. Finally, this is me saying finally. But Spillman, what are your thoughts on the opinion that Sony is potentially ending their Spider Universe, or do you believe that they are in fact?
It's about time. I feel like their heart hasn't been in a Spider-Man movie since that second Amazing Spider-Man movie came out, and they started when they were really in contract negotiation issues.
Yeah.
Um, excuse me. Obviously, they're making a ton of the Spider-Man, like like they've taken the spaghetti against the wall method, and that's never a good way to make movies. It's just bad. I just don't think it's a good look to just be making movies to make movies. especially when it's just to keep a corporate entity under
I feel
your
yeah.
IP. Like this, we can see through it. It's kind of like when Elvis was making movies instead of making songs. And they would pump out a new Elvis movie every week because some people will go see Elvis because he's singing in it a little bit. But we want to see the Spider-Man and all of these things. Like Spider-Man's not really in Craven. Spider-Man wasn't even in Venom. Spider-Man wasn't in Morbius. Like most of these characters do not make sense without Spider-Man as them. Like I think that's one
Yep,
flawed
yep,
thing
that,
that a
that.
lot of these because they're like trying to give us a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a fraction instead of just like if you want to write a cool vampire movie, just write a cool vampire movie. I promise you, if you made a cool vampire movie today, people will probably go see it. Like we'd all go see it because it's like a new thing. Like I feel like there's just so much of we're trying to do the same thing other people are doing that it's ruined. And it's good that Sony has let go of the is letting go of the Spider-Verse and will let Disney take over. It's also probably better that it didn't end up with Disney buying Sony because I would not want to have a Disney PlayStation. That would be very weird. Um, but I could see that could have possibly have happened if they would have kept down this road of not making good Spider-Man movies because they have to cost hundreds of millions of dollars.
Well, here's the thing. I don't believe. I'm gonna still go with the sentiment that is provided there in that Sony is not going to get rid of Spider-Man. They make way too much money off of Spider-Man. Whether we're talking about the medium we have with games, whether we're talking about the medium with films, I know that people kind of get caught up in what we have with um, they get caught up with what transpires with the secondary or the ancillary, I'll say, the ancillary films that they have with Spider-Man-less films that feature villains or other characters that are on the periphery of Spider-Man. I think that they're learning that you can't, just as you said, you can't do films that intrinsically require that character to make them work. Don't get me wrong, Morbius and Craven are awesome villains, but they're awesome villains because they're
Oh,
playing
Spider-Man.
off of Spider-Man. They're villains to Spider-Man. That's why they are awesome. So I want to say that there has been a lot of speculation that the Spider-Verse is ending, but as I said, there's too much money that Sony is making. I mean, especially with the partnership that they have with their MCU version of Spider-Man. I just feel that maybe it's going to be an end of these films that are Spider-Man-less, more so than them ending their Spider-Man films. Because, I mean, we do have films that, or projects that are still coming that they are involved with. We still have Spider-Man 4 that's coming, which is the partnership that they have with Marvel, of course, with Marvel Studios. But people still forget we still have the Spider-Man Noir project that's happening with Nicolas Cage, a live action version of that. We still have the animated Into the Spider-Verse that's still ongoing now. We still have the third installment that's still in the progress of being made as we speak. So, I mean, I feel like what is necessary now is finally settle on you're going to do a Spider-Man universe. Either you're going to need to bring over Tom Holland, which I don't feel like they have the courage to do because they don't want it to mess up their MCU money that they have in partnering with Marvel Studios. Or I would argue we've done it in the animated universe just to do Miles Morales. Like I feel like the answer is already in front of them and they're just not seeing it. Is that
I
if you
think that they
can't,
own Peter Parker like that. I don't think that they own Miles Morales like that.
I'm just saying, like if you can't do Peter Parker, then do Miles Morales because that's something that the MCU is not doing. So it's something that brings eyes to you because you're doing something the MCU is not. You have a character who is a minority, which also is something that Marvel currently is not doing. And it still allows you a way to kind of have your cake and eat it too. Even though you have this multiverse thing going with Marvel that's going right now, it's not gonna be a thing forever. Once Secret Wars is done, that multiverse stuff, I'm sure that they're going to kind of put the kibosh on. So you still need to have something that you have in your universe that allows you to still be able to accomplish having a Spider-Man in your universe while also having a unique version of Spider-Man that your contemporary, that being Disney, doesn't have. You've already accomplished it in an animated sense, and it's been very successful. Just do it in the live action sense. That's where I stand. That's how I feel. I feel like the answer is right in front of them, and they're not seeing it.
That's not the answer. The answer is you can't really do like once you have something like the MCU where they can pull characters from everywhere and you can do any characters on any movies. Like you can have a Spider-Man movie with Doctor Strange in it. Doing a Spider-Man movie with only Spider-Man characters doesn't seem as interesting.
No, I agree with you. I'm saying that you can do it with the Spider-Man characters, but you finally need to have a Spider-Man in that said universe. And I feel like their answer to that is having a live action version of Miles to be a part of their universe versus trying to take Tom
But they
Holland's.
don't own Miles Morales, though. That's what I'm saying. Miles Morales was created after they bought Spider-Man. Miles Morales is technically not the Spider-Man that they own. So I think they've been doing the animated movies and not a live action for just that reason. I don't think that they own that Spider-Man for live action purposes. I
Okay,
think that
well,
and I think because Disney doesn't really put out feature length cartoon movies for the Marvel stuff. For the most part, they were like, "Sure, you can do a animated movie. We're not going to waste money on that. Sure, go right ahead." I
or
don't
I
think
want
that.
to say, do it this way. Do what you have, what you've done with Tom Holland's Peter Parker, and do the same thing with Miles Morales. Except that your Miles Morales functions in your universe, but it is a character that can be shared with the MCU. Like you could do it that way too. If you want to kind of have your cake and eat it too, just do it similarly to what you have with Tom Holland. I think it's just that with Tom Holland, they've kind of handcuffed themselves in terms of allowing that character to reside in the MCU because it kind of, I feel, limits what the possibilities that they have. So I feel like they need to kind of have a slightly similar um, type of sharing relationship that they have with Miles Morales, but the only difference being that Miles Morales predominantly resides in Sony's universe versus in the Marvel universe. Or better yet, here's another answer. You've established that there's still an interest with your other Peter Parkers. Continue the universe that you have with those Peter Parkers. Like at the end of the day, those universes were yours. The one that you had with Andrew Garfield and the one that you had with Tobey Maguire, they're still yours. So like it's been established based off of the reaction that you got in the
So you're
MCU
saying
Spider-Man.
your solution is more terrible movies? That's what you're saying? Let's get some
Oh,
old
what?
people out here to play
Oh,
Spider-Man?
Those Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies were horrible.
No,
Oh,
that's
I
not
was
what I'm
like,
saying.
what are you smoking?
I'm saying Tobey Maguire is too old to play Spider-Man.
Okay, well, have him, and then you can. There's another story that you can adapt there. They can adapt the Spider Girl story where you have the daughter of Peter Parker, but you can still have Peter Parker in it.
That's bad, man. That's bad.
You can still have him in it. There's a story that you could tell there. So, like, I don't know. Like, I still feel like they have an answer right in front of them of possibilities that they have, and they're just not utilizing it. Whether they feel
Okay.
like they're limited by the MCU or not with the sharing relationship that they have with Tom Holland's version of Spider-Man. But that is going to wrap up today's show. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. For those that were sending in comments, before I go, I'm going to put it over to Spillman. Spillman, can you tell folks where they can find you?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you can find me on Instagram at Truly Spill. I'm there to talk about all things um, silly and fun. So yeah, look at me there. Let's have a great week out there.
All right, excellent. So I'm your host, Brandon Choi, also co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. You can find me at Brandon Choi ENT on X, as well as Brandon Choi _ENT on Instagram. Thank you guys so much for watching. I just want to let you guys know we do have dual streams that we normally have whenever we do any of our shows, whether it's on YouTube or Facebook, and we do have the ability on Facebook for you guys to show your support with Facebook stars. We do have that available on that end. But if you're watching here on YouTube, we appreciate that too. Just be sure to throw that thumbs up, or if you have anything to say in terms of some of the said news stories that we talked about or thoughts on it, make sure you can share with us in the comments if you don't have a chance to do so live during the show. That out of the way, thank you guys so much for watching. Be safe out there, and see you guys soon. Peace.
Peace.